An entitled jerk scams me and a bunch of people into doing work for him for his real job, as he lied to us saying he was looking for interns for his company, despite the fact that he used us just to get work done at his real job. So I decided to get some revenge by exposing him to his current employer, resulting in this side business getting shut down, as well as this guy most likely getting fired. Here's what happened. So I'm a rising senior at a reputable engineering school in my country. I was looking for internships for the summer, and I came across a job posting on WellFound. I applied casually, and a few days later, I got a take-home assignment as part of the recruitment process and was asked to join a Discord server to better connect potential candidates with the hiring team. Well, I did some digging, and I found out that the company has very little in terms of a digital footprint. Their LinkedIn page did not mention their founder's name or any dedicated human resources person. Nevertheless, I still joined the Discord, and I tried my best to complete the assignments, which took a whole day to brainstorm. The assignment basically had a lot of stuff that could benefit the company. Since I did not have an internship, I still took my chances. I think I did pretty well, and I also had a great resume for the role. Anyways, a few days after submitting, I get a rejection email, and I honestly didn't really mind it, because I know that getting an internship isn't that easy. But then, I reached out to some other people from the Discord, and I asked them if someone was interviewed. A guy there told me that everyone was rejected, and they did the whole hiring thing to just get their work done from a ton of people. Well, I immediately got furious and literally searched every member of their Discord server and ultimately found the co-owner. I then saw his LinkedIn, and I discovered that he was working full-time for a company and was running this startup on the side. I went to LinkedIn and I found 2 human resources people from his employer, and it's here that I got their work email ID, and I decided to expose this guy to them for moonlighting. I gathered all the proof from WellFound, LinkedIn, Discord, and the co-founder's personal portfolio, where he had mentioned his startup as his side project, even though they were definitely running a full-time company. Now, fast forward a few days and the startup's Discord server is deleted. Their Reddit page went private, their WellFound says that this company has been closed, and the founder's portfolio page is gone. Since all of this happened, I'm assuming that human resources definitely talked to him, and he was most likely fired. And this was a person, by the way, with 2 master's degrees, 7 to 8 years of experience, and I'm just a 20-year-old college student. And I'm sure he could get another job, but I'm just glad that I got my revenge on this guy because what he was doing was so messed up. Oh man, this guy absolutely is a con artist, like seriously. He literally scammed you and a bunch of other people into like doing work for him. And that's messed up if you ask me, like seriously, there's no good excuse for that. So good for you for exposing this guy. He absolutely deserved to get shut down, especially if he's going to be taking advantage of people like this, because that is just unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to take time off of my work schedule just to help my friend set up for her wedding, especially after she volunteered my boyfriend without asking me first? Here's what's happening. I'm a 35-year-old female and I'm a bridesmaid for my friend who we will call Anna. The wedding is at the end of August and it's about 2 hours away. The bridal party consists of me, as well as Christine, Marla, Chris, who is a male friend, and Anna's sister. All of the names, by the way, are fake. And my boyfriend, who we will call Tristan, who is also a part of our friend group, is officiating everything. So far, I've paid for the bridesmaid dress, the bachelorette party, which I helped organize and pay for, the bridal shower party, the wedding gift, and my transportation and accommodations. I'm about $1,500 in, and that's before the wedding gift itself. Now, back in May, Anna messaged me, Marla, and Christine saying that she told Chris he needs to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday before the wedding. It felt like her way of announcing that we were all expected to be there early without asking. I then called her and I explained that it wasn't reasonable for all of us to take a full day off of work, especially since her fiance's family gave her like $50,000 that she's been bragging about nonstop, which could easily cover a setup crew. To her credit, she backtracked and messaged and said, "Sorry about the earlier text. If you can make it up to help, that would be really appreciated. But I understand that people have jobs. I need everyone there for the rehearsal at 4:00 p.m. We all agreed to that plan, and then this week she sends a new message to the group. "We'll have access to the venue at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. If someone can help before 2 o'clock, it would be super appreciated. Also, at 2 o'clock, we'll have a 45-minute rehearsal. You'll have plenty of time to relax before the dinner." When Chris pushed back on this, because he has work, and mentioned Tristan drives us, Anna just replied in the group chat saying that Tristan will be there Friday to help out, which is something she said without even asking me first. And you know what? This is what really got to me. She's always making weird comments like, "Oh, Tristan would do anything for me." And now she's volunteering him like he's her personal backup. Tristan later told me that when she brought it up in person, she phrased it as if I'd already agreed. So he said yes because he didn't think he had a choice. Well, when I told him I hadn't, he let out a laugh and said, "All right, no big deal. Just blame me and then we won't go." So I texted her. I reminded her that she'd originally said 4:00 p.m., I told her it was too late for us to take off work and that Tristan wouldn't be there Friday. Well, she just read the message, reacted to it with a heart, and then never replied. And just for a bit of context, Anna and her fiance are already legally married. They went to City Hall last year. None of us were invited. And also, she broke up with her ex of 5 years in June, started dating her now husband immediately, who is, by the way, a regular at the bar where she worked at, got engaged by August, and has bragged about his $40,000 ring and trust fund ever since then. Between the cost, the time off, and her volunteering my boyfriend, I feel completely taken advantage of. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to go early in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. It sounds like your friend's super annoying and they're probably just excited to get married or something like that, but it does sound like they're also like really stepping over the line when it comes to like volunteering Tristan, because clearly Tristan was like, no, I'm not doing that. I only signed up to say yes because I thought you were like in the loop. And for me personally, and this is just my opinion, the second someone volunteers me for something without asking me about it first, that's the second I no longer trust them and will probably never want to talk to them ever again. Like that's a one-way ticket to me never being your friend probably ever again. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to like go early for this, because from the sounds of it, your friend is super unorganized and just a little bit toxic. And that is not something I would ever entertain in the slightest. My mom has given me an ultimatum when it comes to my girlfriend, saying that if I stay with her, she's gonna disappear from my life completely. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been seeing my girlfriend for about 9 months now. I really do love her a lot and I feel like she could definitely be the one. The chemistry was amazing and I moved into her place after a few months. We've been living together ever since and things have been going pretty smoothly. My mom had a very tumultuous relationship with my dad, who suffered from undiagnosed mental health conditions and some physical ones for the majority of my childhood, and they divorced when I was a teenager. Well, because of this, she has some trauma regarding mental health. My partner has recently been going through some mental health problems and had to go to the hospital for a short stay, and it seems like a temporary but potentially reoccurrent problem. Well, because of this news, my mom has provided me the ultimatum between her and my partner. I was told if I choose my partner, she will disappear from my life completely. Now, my mother is definitely psychologically unwell, but she also refuses to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, so there's not much I can do about it. She has told me in the past in several outbursts to not come home, saying that I'm not her son anymore and all this other stuff, but she seems pretty serious this time around. I know we've been only together for a short time, but I really can see myself spending the rest of my life with my girlfriend. What should I do? Okay, this is some weird stuff because honestly, the second someone gives an ultimatum, especially about something like this where it's like, wait a second, how does this have anything to do with you in the first place? Like that's the second some big red flags pop up in my head because this is so irrational. I understand that your mom had like a bad go around with your dad, as he clearly had some undiagnosed mental health problems and all this other stuff going on, but that doesn't mean it's related to your girlfriend in any way. Like seriously, what's going on right now? This is so stupid. Just because that happened to her doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. And obviously from the sounds of it, your girlfriend is way different than your dad. She's actually like getting help that she needs as opposed to your dad who didn't do anything to help himself out. So personally, I find this ultimatum ridiculous and I'm so sorry you're dealing with this because you definitely do not deserve this. I moved to my partner's country after I got pregnant and now I feel like his family always comes first above me because at this point I'm really overwhelmed and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it's all going down. I'm a 28-year-old female and I moved to Mexico last year to be with my partner who's 32 years old. We were only supposed to be visiting. I had been living and working in Australia and had just gotten approved for a visa extension after working so hard for it. I was so proud and excited about the future I had built for myself. But then during a vacation with my partner, I found out that I was pregnant. We were happy, but everything completely changed. I couldn't return to Australia. The life I worked so hard for slipped away overnight, and that still hurts me to this day. At first, we lived with his parents. They were kind and spoke English, but I quickly became overwhelmed. I come from a distant, emotionally reserved family, and constant interaction, daily socializing, and living in someone else's space while pregnant was exhausting. I was physically and emotionally drained, and we were constantly visiting extended family. Eventually, I asked my partner if we could move out, and thankfully, we did exactly that. Things became a little calmer. Then our daughter was born. I love her more than anything, but I've been struggling. I think I might have postpartum depression. I'm doing almost everything too, by the way. Breastfeeding, pumping, cooking, cleaning, laundry, bottle washing, baby care, even taking Spanish classes. I've told my partner again and again how overwhelmed I am. I know he is busy because he has his own business and he works from home, so he's working all the time. So I understand if he is tired after working and not having enough sleep, but it's like me too, I sleep even less. but I literally begged him for help, even with small things like not leaving dirty dishes everywhere, but bring them to the sink to make it easier for me. He helps take care of the baby with like diaper changes, and lately he helps me bathe her almost every day because I have back pain. Now when it comes to house chores, he sometimes helps, but most of the time it's on me. I really don't want to argue about the same thing over and over again, but I feel like I'm constantly repeating myself and just being ignored. We've talked about taking a trip to recharge, but when I suggest ideas, he says they are way too much of a tourist destination and then just doesn't follow up. When he brings up travel, it's almost always about visiting family, every single time. I once suggested spending Christmas somewhere snowy like in the United States, and his first response was to say, "What about my parents? What about my brother and his wife? You know, who doesn't even have a US visa." He is a US citizen himself, but it's never just about us. He says I'm not being forced to go, but when I say no, he gives me disappointed looks, so I always end up going out of guilt. He tells me, "Oh, they're your family too, but they don't feel like mine. I barely know them. I come from a broken home, and I struggle with closeness, even with my own relatives." I feel like he's pushing me into something I'm not emotionally ready for. But lately, it's gotten even worse. His parents temporarily moved in with his grandparents, so now when we visit, it's even more people, all speaking Spanish with more pressure to socialize. I feel so drained by these visits, I just sometimes skip meals just to avoid sitting at the table and pretending that I'm okay. It's not because I dislike them, it's just too much for me. I feel like I disappear. I've been asking him for months to help finalize our baby's passport, but it's been 4 months and still I get nothing. I'm the one carrying all the emotional and mental load, and I'm honestly drowning. I know his family is going through a lot right now. His dad has cancer, his mom recently had surgery, his grandma is about to have one, and his grandpa just had eye surgery, and I still feel bad after he got stung by scorpions. I truly understand why he wants to be there for them, but during my pregnancy, I lost all 3 of my grandparents. I never got to say goodbye. I'm grieving too, even if I wasn't that close to them. I'm here away from my family, my culture, my friends, and the future I worked so hard for. And I feel like no one even sees that, not even him. He wants me to bond with his family, but he's never even asked me if I want to. He will just turn to our 4-month-old and say, "Are you excited to visit your grandparents?" But never once has he asked me, "Are you excited?" I finally told him, "Look, you're the one who wants to go. I'm not." Now, here's the thing. I'm trying to be a good mom. I'm trying to be a good partner, but I'm exhausted and I'm grieving, and I feel like I just don't matter. How do I talk to him in a way that actually gets through? I'm trying not to be selfish, and I know his family needs him, but I feel like I'm slowly falling apart. I don't want to resent him, but I'm honestly getting close, because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that sounds really rough. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That kind of sounds like my personal nightmare. Like I would not handle that situation well at all. So if it's any consolation, like you're handling this way better than I would. Like I would be pissed off and really down in the dumps. There wouldn't be a lot of things that could kind of pull me out of it. So like you're handling this really well. But I think in this scenario, talking to your husband and being like, "Look, I'm overwhelmed and I'm losing it. I'm burnt out and I need some kind of help here." Something like that would be probably super helpful in articulating that, yeah, you're drowning and you need a break. Because it sounds like you're handling all this by yourself. And yeah, I get that your husband has his own like business and stuff like that, but seriously, he should really be more involved. You should not be expected to handle all of this by yourself on top of adjusting to a new culture that you're kind of like thrown into. So hopefully this all works out, because this really does sound very frustrating and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with it. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my cousin borrow my BMW just so he can use it for his wedding? Because right now he's claiming that I'm ruining his big day by saying no, and at this point I'm just super frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I own a BMW that I've spent years working on. For reference, I'm a 31-year-old male, and this is my dream car that I take care of religiously. Like, I don't even let valet drivers touch it. My cousin, who's a 28-year-old male, is getting married next week. He asked me if he could borrow my BMW for the ceremony so that he could arrive in style, but I politely said no, explaining that I don't let anyone drive my car, not even close family. Well, when I said that, he got upset, and he said that I was ruining his big day and that I care more about a car than my family. Some of my relatives think I'm being selfish and that it's just one day, so why not just hand it over? But from my perspective, if something happened to the car, it simply wouldn't be worth the risk. Weddings are hectic and parking lots are chaotic, and accidents happen. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for refusing to let him borrow my BMW? Because right now I'm honestly still pretty annoyed. No, this guy's so stupid. The fact that your cousin's trying to be like, "Oh, come on, you gotta worry about your family. You're ruining my big day by not handing over your expensive car." Like, dude, come on. If he really wants a fancy car, then he can rent one like anybody else. That way he can have the extravagant entrance that he wants, and also he doesn't ruin your car in the process. And no, he's probably not gonna wreck it. Like, I'm sure he's going to be a reasonable person, but the original poster, in my opinion, has it right. Weddings and parking lots all get really hectic sometimes, and accidents absolutely can happen. So in my opinion, I think you're not the jerk and you absolutely are well within your right to tell him no. And if he really wants to take this in a bad way, then honestly, that's on him and not on you. My entitled sister gets me incredibly cheap chocolates and a cheap card for my birthday, as she did this in a very petty and spiteful way. So I decided to fight fire with fire and destroy her with kindness by returning the favor in a way that truly left her shocked and incredibly embarrassed. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I had a very big argument with my sister. The story is far too long to post, but it's something that was building since we were kids. She always treated me very badly, but I always kept it amicable for the family. But this time it went too far, and we had a massive blowout on our family's group chat. Anyways, we ignored each other for some time after that, but finally had to appear face to face at a family gathering, which happened to be a few weeks after my birthday. Now, I really should explain, but I hate my birthday, and I wouldn't care if someone didn't want to buy me a present, as I get very uncomfortable receiving them. But that birthday, my sister rocks up with a present and a card for me, and it was just a small box of cheap chocolates and a card. Both of them, by the way, with the prices still on them. And the chocolates were like $2 and the card was like maybe 25 cents. Now, here's the thing. If that's all someone can afford to buy, or even all that someone wants to spend, I have zero issue with that whatsoever. But the fact that she left the prices on and the smirk on her face let me know that it was a deliberate dig. She really is the spiteful type, and I just knew it. So her birthday comes around a couple of months later, and I immediately thought about how I should handle it. I mean, I could easily find a cheaper box of chocolate and a cheaper card to leave the prices on, but then I remembered a quote my mom used to say a lot: if you want to get back at them, just destroy them with kindness. So I went out and I bought a moderately expensive and very thoughtful gift that I knew she would love. And I bought the most expensive card I could find, which was about $5. I didn't leave the price on the gift as I thought that was a little over the top, and the thoughtfulness of it was enough, but I did leave the price on the card. Well, that smug smirk on her face when she gave me my present was nowhere to be seen, but instead it was replaced by sheer shock and embarrassment. We still haven't talked about it years later, but the pettiness from there on out definitely stopped. Oh yeah, this absolutely seemed very intentional and very targeted. Like, this is some stupid behavior if you ask me. Like, honestly, just be normal. I can't stand pettiness or like passive aggressiveness where someone's clearly making digs at you without actually making any kind of comment. And it's clear that she was trying to make some kind of like remark towards you of like, oh yeah, you're only worth cheap chocolates and a cheap card. It's not worth buying anything more for you, or something like that. Like, this really is kind of what I'm getting from this. So honestly, good for you for like fighting fire with fire, because from the sounds of it, your sister sounds very annoying, so getting back at her in this way just seems to make a lot of sense. Am I the jerk for having a male friend come and visit me who was making the time to stop by while on a cross-country road trip? Because right now, my boyfriend is very pissed off at me and is even going as far as sleeping in the house that we're remodeling. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 29-year-old female, and I met this friend who I will call Rick in 2019 while I was working a seasonal wildland fire job in Idaho. We spent 5 months working together, and we were in the same truck assignment on the crew, so we especially spent a lot of time together. Now, we've only ever had a platonic relationship. I am still in touch with them and a few others from the crew, both male and female, and I visited and also been visited by about 5 to 6 other people from this job. After this job, I lived in California and Oregon, and Rick continued to live in Idaho, and I saw him a few times when I would visit Idaho for rafting or kayaking trips, either camping with him and the others I was traveling with, or staying at his Forest Service camper, and again, always having platonic separate sleeping arrangements. We talk on the phone once every few months, and Rick also has a girlfriend of about 2 years. For additional context, Rick has interacted with my parents when I would call home, and although he doesn't know them that well, he has had a friendly acquaintance with them from afar. Well, flash forward to present day, and Rick is relocating from Idaho back to his home state of South Carolina, and I now live in my home state of Minnesota, and it adds about 2 hours to his 30+ hours of driving to go through my town. And on the way, he's also making stops in Indiana to see some friends as well. I live in a house with my boyfriend of just under a year, and there is not great guest accommodations. A guest would need to sleep on the futon on the porch if they wanted to. Also, I work at a fire department on like a 24-hour shift, and I'm working from Wednesday until Friday. Well, Rick wanted to come to town Wednesday evening, hang out Thursday, and then depart on early Friday. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And then the plan was for him to stay at my parents' house 10 minutes away because they have a larger home that has a lot more space for any kind of guest. Well, my boyfriend of just under 1 year told me ahead of time that he didn't love that I had a guy friend coming to visit, and he thought that it was super weird that he was going to stay with my parents. He said he knows he can't ask me to change who I am or get rid of friends, but it just feels weird and it makes him uncomfortable. Now, I have explain the full context of my friendship to him, and I want to be sensitive to his feelings, but I don't think it's reasonable to alter friendships I've had long before knowing him that are not inappropriate in the slightest. And he is actually fine with some of my male friends that live here and actively enjoys them, and at this point, he would even consider them a friend of his. I thought my boyfriend was accepting, although not excited about the plan, but now it's Thursday and it's causing a huge outburst again. My boyfriend then chose not to have dinner with my family and Rick, and instead chose to work on the house remodeling at a property that is a mile from where we live. And it's like, okay, fine, go ahead and do that. I get done with dinner at around 7:30, and I call immediately upon leaving, but I get no answer. I swing by the remodeled house and no one's there. So I think to myself, okay, maybe he's going to get food himself. But when I get back to our house, there is no sign of him. I then call and text him once an hour goes by. I then finally hear from him at 9:15 at night. He is at the remodel house and his phone has been on the charger while he went out to get food for himself. But I think it's complete garbage that he couldn't communicate that he would be home way later than normal. And he's also saying that he's going to stay at that house tonight. So am I really the jerk for having a male friend come visit me in this fashion? I asked my boyfriend if our roles were reversed, would he have told his friends not to visit or had them stay in a hotel? But when I asked this, he provided no answer to these questions. Also, this is the first time he has decided to stay up at that house ever since the remodel began about 4 months ago. What should I do? Okay, I'm going to echo what someone said in the comments section, but your boyfriend sounds incredibly immature and very insecure. Like seriously, this is clearly just a friend from an old job you did several years ago. And the fact that your boyfriend can't see that is really weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, and like honestly, you haven't done anything wrong. Because in my opinion, you've done everything right to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible.
Company uses my phone number on their receipts, so I decide to become that company to get revenge. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. Quite some time ago, my girlfriend and I, now wife of more than 15 years, moved in together and had to set up all the things: cable, internet, phone, etc. We got our home phone number, our 2 cell phones, and we're off to the races. Almost immediately, we start getting calls for an establishment that does custom framing and other various art-related things. Let's call them Expo for Art. Of course, we had caller ID and we had friends that would call us, but inevitably, if we didn't recognize the number, it was someone wanting to find out if their order was complete, or their frame was done, of what their hours were, or any of 1,000 other questions. I'm sure anyone else who has had this happen would recognize the exchange. Sorry, that's no longer their number, this is a residence. Yes, I'm sure. No, I'm not giving you my address. No, I don't know their new number. Yes, I have a phone book, but so do you. Eventually, after 1,000 of these and changing the message on our answering machine to say, this is not, I repeat, not Expo for Art. If you're trying to reach Expo for Art, please hang up, look up their number, and try that, because we aren't them. Eventually, I got my gazillionth call and I asked the person on the other end of the line where they kept getting this number. Well, it's printed on my receipt. I guess I'll just call this other number. Any chance you can give me that one? Thanks. I call it. Hello, Expo for Art. You guys are still giving out my home phone number on your receipts. Yeah, so? Well, stop it. It's been at least a year since you haven't had that number. At least cross it out or something. Ugh, that's such a pain. I'm not making any of my employees do that. So you're the manager? I'm the owner. So let me see if I have this right. You, what was your name again? Let's call him Fred. You, Fred, have decided that it's too inconvenient to cross my home phone number off of your receipts, so you're just going to keep giving it out? Yup. What are you gonna do? Sue me? Maybe. Whatever. I've got things to do. Bye. I called a lawyer, but didn't really have a leg to stand on. I went to the store and asked for Fred. Fred's not here. He's hardly ever here, really. You want me to call him? No, I'm fine. I know this is going to sound odd, but is there any chance I can see one of your receipts? She picks up a receipt book and shows it to me, and sure enough, it's got my phone number at the top, above another one. I say, I thought so. I couldn't get you at the other number. Some guy yelled at me, and I didn't have my old receipt, so I had to come down here. We've been having that happen a lot. Ever since Fred decided we didn't need 2 phone lines. But he just bought like 20 boxes of these receipt books and business cards, and he's too cheap to buy more until they run out. I'd hate to be that guy. Yeah, that's gotta suck. So I went home and hatched my evil plan. Next phone number I didn't recognize. Hello, Expo for Art. Hi, this is Mary Smith. I dropped off a thing last week to be framed. Is it ready? Oh, let me check. Yep, we finished it this morning. I hope you don't mind, but we decided to upgrade the matting because of the weight of the piece. It's the same color and won't be charging you for it since it was my decision. Oh, thank you. I'll be down to pick it up later today. What time do you close? I looked down at my business card with my number and the hours clearly marked 11 to 4. Oh, take your time. We'll be here until 7. Oh, thank you so much. Can you tell me how much that was? $11.99, ma'am, plus tax. So $21.39. Wow, that's cheap. Are you sure? Of course. If anyone has a problem, tell them you talked to Fred. Okay, I'll see you around 6. See you then. Thank you for calling Expo for Art. For weeks, I kept giving out completely random information. How much is a 36 by 48 matted frame? Let's say $25. Wow, that's cheap. How much to have it done custom how they want it? Custom is an extra 10, so $35. Wow, that's cheap. I'll be right down. What was your name? Fred? See you in 10, Fred. How much to have the entire front page of the New York Times from 9/11 mounted and framed? $33.99 unless you want our special proprietary newspaper frame and mat service. Only $49.99 and guaranteed for life. Only at Expo for Art. Tell them Fred sent you. I can only imagine the number of people who showed up to pick up orders that weren't ready and when they finally got there were given a price way higher than what Fred had told them over the phone. Eventually, someone let slip that they called the number on the receipt, and that's what Fred told them. Fred was not happy. Thank you for calling Expo for Art. This is Fred.
You're not Fred, I'm Fred. Are you trying to put me out of business?
Why, Fred, what do you mean?
Someone has been giving prices to my customers and telling them their orders are ready when they're not due for weeks.
Well, Fred, who called them?
Nobody called them, they called us.
Then what's the problem? If someone called you and got pricing information, that would seem to be your problem.
They didn't call me, they called you.
Well, how would that happen?
Your number is on my receipts and business cards.
My. It seems there's a very simple solution here. Take my number off your receipts and business cards.
Do you have any idea how much promotional materials cost?
Is it more than it costs to do these jobs for the prices you're quoting? Is it more than it costs to lose customers? Or less than that?
This is extortion.
Call it what you want, Fred. The choices and consequences are entirely up to you. A week later, hello, Expo for Art. This is Fred.
I've ordered new receipts and books and cards. Can you please stop doing this?
Sure. Bye, Fred. So, was I being a jerk? I don't think they were being a jerk at all. It's up to that business to be able to take care of this kind of thing and change their materials if their number changes. It's certainly not your fault as some random person who's getting all these calls for a business that isn't yours. You then brought it to his attention and he chose to be the jerk about it. You didn't do anything wrong, really. You just kind of messed with him a little bit. And he had it coming. If you were some 14-year-old kid, they would have done the exact same thing. It's almost just a prank. But this guy knew exactly why it was happening and how to prevent it and didn't want to. I feel like the owner took that risk as soon as he decided he didn't want to be the one to remove that number from his business materials. And then to turn it around and call it extortion is just plain inaccurate as far as I know. Extortion would be, hey, you need to pay me money or I'm going to continue to do this, which our original poster never did at any point. He was not gaining anything from this financially. He just wanted the calls to stop. And honestly, who can blame him? At least Fred has got everything sorted out now. Client demands to speak to my manager because I can't legally tell him his own password. Some backstory, I do end user implementation, training, and support for a web application that was developed by my firm. Our clients tend to skew a little older. Client: I can't get into my account. My login isn't working. This is ridiculous. I've been trying for hours and now I'm locked out. Me: oh, my apologies for any inconvenience. I've just reset your password. You should receive an email with a link to set it and save a new password in a moment. Client: I don't want a new password. I like my old password. It's the same password I use for everything else and it's easy to remember. Me: my sincere apologies, but you will need to set a new password in order to gain access to your account. Client: can't I just use my old password? Me: no, our data security standards do not allow that. However, if for any reason you aren't able to follow the password reset link, I would be happy to generate a random password for you and share it with you over the phone. Client: Do that then and email the password to me. Me. Again, my apologies, but part of our security policy states that we cannot email passwords in plain text. I would be happy to give you a call and share your password with you over the phone. Client. Why are you being so difficult? I just want my old password to work again. Me. Sir, I'm so sorry that this process has been frustrating for you. I want you to have access to your account. Have you followed the link in the password reset email? Customer. No, it looks like a virus. I don't want to click on it. Me. I can assure you that it is not a virus. It's a hyperlink. You can just click on it and it'll open a page in your browser where you can reset your password. Client. That's ridiculous. That's so much work. Why do you make it sound so hard? This should be simple. I want to speak to your manager. Me, eager to pass them off to someone else at this point. No problem. My manager is CC'd. He'd be happy to assist you. Manager.
How can I help?
Customer. Your employee is rude, stupid, and not helpful. I just want to log in. I don't want to reset my password. I don't want to click on this virus she sent me. And this is taking forever. It's ridiculous. Manager.
Sir, respectfully, we're going to need you to meet us halfway and change your password.
Client, in all caps, this is via email. This is bull! I don't want to change my password. You're all idiots. Manager.
Again, we're sorry that this is frustrating for you. Please let us know what we can do to help.
The manager CCs the client's boss, the director of their organization, and the one whose signature is on the contract. My manager doesn't take anything from clients. Client's boss to their employee with us CC'd.
Are you serious? These nice people are doing everything they can to help you, and you're abusing them and belittling them? This is an embarrassment to our organization. You owe them both an apology, and you need to reset your password, stop complaining, and log in and get me that report that was supposed to be on my desk yesterday. The fact that you've wasted your entire day on this is ridiculous, and this will definitely be included in your performance review.
My manager and I were in tears. Client's boss was savage AF and did not pull a single punch. The client did end up resetting his password, but did not apologize. Last time I sent out an email to clients, his bounced. I think he got fired. So was I the jerk in this situation? I don't think so. You were just trying to do your job and had someone who just didn't want to follow the instructions you were giving them. People don't seem to understand that customer service is just that, customer service. They're there to help you, but you have to help them help you. You need to be willing to do what they're saying so that you can get the end result that you're asking for. They're there telling you how to do it. All you have to do is follow along. Honestly, it just kind of sounds like this guy didn't want to do any work that day and decided to make this a bigger problem than it needed to be. No fault at all in the original poster here. My cousin doesn't believe in vegetarianism. So my cousin is a total Kevin. He doesn't believe in vegetarianism. At Christmas 2019, my mom brought a mixed salad for the extended family, mostly the aunts. My one aunt is a vegetarian. You might see where this is going. The whole family sits down and my aunt's plate consists of only salad, green beans, and some of my grandma's famous mashed potatoes. As we begin to eat, my cousin looks up at my aunt and asks,
So, why didn't you get any of the turkey or ham I brought?
She looked at him strangely. Because I'm a vegetarian? Kevin had a confused look on his face.
But you're eating plants.
My aunt looks even more confused. Plants are vegetables. Kevin gives her the most narcissistic smirk and says,
No, they're not. They're meat.
The whole family looks at Kevin, who's looking like he just told a child Santa isn't real. My uncle chimes in, Kevin, plants are vegetables, not animals. They don't contain meat.
Well, they're alive, aren't they? So that means they're animals.
We tried to explain to him that just because they're alive doesn't mean they're animals. Are trees animals, Kevin? Huh?
No, trees aren't alive.
We gave up after 45 minutes of arguing and went to open presents. Can you believe this jerk? This one is, interesting. We don't seem to have an age in the original post, but I'm very curious how old this person is. It seems to be implied that they're an adult, and I think we've all had those moments where you realize later in life that you should have, that something that you thought wasn't correct all along, but this feels like a rather large one to be wrong about. I'm curious how this person got to this point in life still thinking this. Not only that, but the fact that he's so smug about thinking that he's right is just hilarious to me. At the end of the day, maybe we should just take this as a lesson to always be humble and remember that everyone else knows something that you don't. Something that you might think to be correct, no matter how sure you might be, you still need to be willing to question. If this guy had maybe been a little less confident in what he thought was correct, he could have avoided a lot of embarrassment. As it is, it sounds like he continued to argue his point until everyone else just kind of gave up. So some people you just can't get through to. I can't believe my family didn't get my kids anything for Christmas. I married into a wealthy family. My family is lower middle class, so it was quite a change. I have 2 kids, 6-year-old girl and 4-year-old boy, that more or less get anything that they want, but they aren't spoiled. Anyways, we decided to spend Christmas with my family, and the day before Christmas, since my dad worked the actual day, my mom calls all the kids to the tree for presents and did her usual, "You guys were so good and that's why Santa gave you all these things" speech. After that, all of them quickly found theirs, but my 2 kids kept searching and couldn't find anything. My son was on the verge of tears and my daughter was quiet after the tree was cleared and they were left with nothing. I asked my mom what was going on and my mom looked at me, then at my kids and went, "Oops, I thought you knew. We all decided we weren't buying them Christmas gifts." I asked her why and she said that they get more than they need from me and my in-laws and that they all collectively decided to spend more on those that need it. She looked at my son who had tears running down his face and said, "See, look how spoiled he is. This is good for them." She then walked away. I quietly went back to the guest room and packed our things. I then called my husband who had offered to go grab my mom something from Walmart and told him to leave the stuff and come pick us up. We then left quietly after I let my dad know. He was disappointed but said he understood. We managed to cheer the kids up and visited my in-laws instead. A while later, I got a call from my mother. She kept asking me why I disappeared like that and said she was waiting for the stuff my husband was bringing from Walmart. I told her very politely that I didn't like what she did to my children and that she or literally anyone else could have at least told me. My mom said I was acting very entitled for someone who goes on multiple vacations a year. She then brought up my son crying again. I got peeved and told her that the reason he cried is because of her stupid speech about only good kids getting presents. My mom then randomly said that maybe he isn't a good kid if he cried like that over not getting toys. We argued back and forth over this, but I ended up saying that she's very lucky I didn't snatch back the gifts I bought for my nieces and nephews. My mom just said, "The entitlement," before hanging up. My sister texted me the same thing, and my other sister said that I'm playing the victim when the real victims are them and their kids. My mom sent a similar text as well. Am I the jerk? Honestly, this one just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth because the real victims here are her kids, who are only 6 years and 4 years old. They think they did something bad and that that's why they didn't get any presents. Surely the adults in the family understand that this is what the kid is going to think if you don't get them anything and get everyone else something, especially when you point it out immediately before. I think the original poster handled herself very well in this situation. She definitely could have made a scene about this and wouldn't have been wrong to do so, but she chose to quietly let it go, and that's very big of her. I feel like the adults in this family need to sit down and have a conversation and realize that kids are kids and don't understand this type of thing, and to punish them for something like this is just not fair at all. My old friend invites me to her wedding only to try and embarrass and insult me. I was invited to be part of my friend's wedding. Our culture doesn't have the usual bridesmaid-bridegroom thing, but close friends of the bride and groom usually help out. The bride, Alicia, and I go way back. We've been friends since high school and have been through a lot together. However, my relationship with her hasn't always been the best, and she was essentially a mean girl in school and treated me terribly. We both were part of a group of 6, and they all made me the scapegoat for all their mean jokes, comments, and amusement. I was trolled for being tall and chubby. They would treat me and talk to me like I was a guy, and it seriously hurt my self-esteem for a long time. However, the reason I put up with it back then was because I didn't have any other choice, and they were always there when I needed help, which made it easier to brush off their behavior. I have been low contact with them for a while now and haven't seen any of them in person for at least a year. This has helped me gain some confidence. I've lost weight and feel more comfortable wearing short clothes. Alicia contacted me a while ago to ask me to be in her wedding. I hesitated at first, but she insisted and expressed how important it was to her that I be there. So I agreed and we all met up. In the first few minutes of meeting up, Alicia expressed how shocked she was at how much I'd changed. changed. She said that she'd seen my pictures on social media but assumed that I'd been photoshopping them like I used to in school in order to look slim. 2 other friends nodded their approval and said they thought the same thing. Then Alicia says that she's really surprised that I actually look like a girl. This kind of hurt, but I calmly replied telling her that I am a girl. She just laughed and said that I'd always be a boy to her because no matter how much weight I lost, she'd still be more petite due to the height difference. As if this wasn't enough, she turned towards one of the guys from our group and asked him for his opinion on this. He chuckled and said she's still the small and cute one. I somehow swallowed all this down and tried to proceed further by changing the topic, but Alicia would not let me. She kept passing comments on my gender identity, body type, and style of dressing. I finally snapped when she told me that she expected me to wear a suit to her wedding instead of a dress. There is no way I was doing that, and I made that clear, but she was adamant, saying that it was her wedding and she wanted me to adhere to her vision. She said that she liked that I was different in school and wore men's clothes, and my new style really threw her off. So she just wanted to fondly remember the old days by having me dress up like a boy. I could not believe how mean and ridiculous she was being. So I told her to count me out and promptly walked out. Since then, the entire group has contacted me to tell me that I'm being unnecessarily stubborn and hurting Alicia. Am I the jerk? Honestly, to me, this just sounds like an issue of straight up bullying, and the bullies don't even realize that they're doing it because they think they're friends. Sadly, this happens a lot more often than I think a lot of people think. Friends tend to poke fun at each other and they think that this stuff is okay, but they don't realize the lasting effect that something like this can have, especially if it's something that you keep going to, poking at the same place over and over again. It can really start to get to people. I don't think the poster's being a jerk at all for not accepting this behavior. This is a social event that you're asking them to attend for you and you want to embarrass them there. She doesn't want to be there to be embarrassed. She wants to be there to support you. Actually, it sounds like she didn't even want to be there to do that either, but only agreed because you kept asking. Then she shows up and finds out it's because you wanted to play a joke on her? Why would she want to agree to that? Who can blame her? This is one of those situations where from the outside looking in, it's very clear who's in the wrong. But for the parties involved, they might not see the immediate issue. They really need to take a step back and listen to what they're saying and understand how it's affecting this person that they call their friend. My husband tried to marry again while we were still married, so I ruined his life. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. I'm the same person who wrote about destroying my darling sibling ex's world after he mentally and emotionally abused them, was chronically unfaithful, cheated while they were across the world, and then publicly dumped them on Facebook. This is about the spouse that I married on that fateful visit by darling sibling. Now, when I met Buttface, as he will hereby be known, he was ideal. He was what I thought I needed. I believed I loved him and that the fairy tale was real. We met by random chance, both many hours from our homes. Me whilst running away from a situation at home, he while on a planned trip abroad. I ended up in Europe within a month and we married about 10 months later. All good, right? Well, it was. Until I started racking up multiple university degrees with honors and he began to realize that not only was I significantly younger, about 17 years, thinner, a big issue in his mind, not in my mind at all, and according to him, better looking. I was now significantly better educated. He was always a bit insecure, but the degrees seemed to really push him over the edge. While I was waiting for my spousal visa, things were falling apart. We both kind of gave up but decided to resolve to save our relationship. I moved and found that nothing he had promised to prepare had happened. The home situation was a mess. We were living with his quite elderly widower father and he was meant to be taking care of him in the household. None of this was happening. Instead, both Buttface and his disgusting sister, hereby known as Butt Ugly, were essentially living as leeches off of their 80-something father. I tried to make things work. But within a week and a half of me landing, he threw an iPad at my head and punched the wall next to my head while screaming that he could have me deported at will. Okay, well, fine. I made a promise. I kept trying, and it only got worse. I took months of emotional abuse, insults, threats, cursing, and everything else short of him actually laying hands on me. 6 months later, he randomly disappeared for 2 weeks to visit Seattle without mentioning it to me. I left. I started over with nothing much to my name but a job and a bit of money thousands of kilometers from anyone I knew. He expected me to run home, but I didn't falter. I blossomed. About a year later, I met my present partner, who has been the truest and most loyal partner I could have wished for. Truly, if I had to do it all again, I would, if I knew my partner would be on the other side. Now for my revenge. I happened to find out that he had a new girlfriend that seemed very serious, and noticed she had mentioned wedding planning on social media. You have to keep tabs on your abusers, especially when your safety is at risk. Now, she's welcome to him. The only issue is, due to draconian divorce laws in my current country, we were not divorced yet. He planned on marrying her in another country. When we met, he told me he had never been married. I later found out he was indeed divorced. I was willing to bet he fed her the exact same lie. So I sent her a message, and my suspicions were confirmed. He told her he had never been married. I was wife number 2. She didn't want to believe it until I sent her a photo of our marriage license as well as a few wedding photos. I did feel really badly about doing that to her because I could tell how hurt she was. But I knew it was better for her to know the truth than to inadvertently marry him in the next month in Seattle as they had planned. She had children. She had a violent ex-husband. She and I actually ended the conversation on a positive note, with her thanking me and me apologizing and explaining why I felt I had to tell her. And then the fallout. My phone started blowing up. Unknown number. In the evening. Wonder who that might be. I was out enjoying a lovely dinner with my partner and answered the call on speaker. In came the usual threats to my person and security, blah blah blah. I could only laugh. He didn't know where I was, nor was he getting past my partner. I could finally relax knowing I was safe, after months of night terrors. And then,
I have lost the love of my life because of you. She's left me and thrown all of my things out of her home.
people, I lost it. I could not stop laughing. It was poetic. He sent a similar email to my mother laced with blatant lies about me, as if she didn't know the play-by-play as it was happening and as if she'd believe a word he had to say anyway. After I got done laughing, I hung up on him and had my number changed. Then I remembered his sister, Butt Ugly, was living at the same home. Butt Ugly had a disabled daughter that lives 200 kilometers away that she claims benefits for, including an apartment and money allowances. She then sublets the handicap-accessible apartment to her boyfriend illegally whilst leeching off of her father. She's also a thief, caught on camera literally taking notes out of Buttface's wallet. Buttface and Butt Ugly absolutely despise each other and are only both living there in hopes of driving the other out in order to get the house as inheritance. Now, if Butt Ugly got reported to the council for fraud and they did a minimal investigation, they'd see she was falsely claiming benefits for an adult daughter who lived far away and had her own benefits, deserved, from another council. She would lose her apartment and possibly face jail time. If she lost her apartment, it was certain she would never leave the father's home. It was Buttface's worst nightmare. So I made it happen. Besides, how dare Butt Ugly claim money she isn't entitled to simply due to her being too lazy to work? She was a neglectful mother when she was actually caring for her kid, leaving her kid in a wheelchair with a jam sandwich and running to the pub the moment benefit money came in. And now she was lying and keeping a rare accessible apartment from someone who truly needs it. That more than justified it to me. But the thought of them both being stuck in the same house, fighting all day and night, both too lazy to leave and too stubborn to give up the inheritance they fantasize about, that's a lovely thought to me. What makes it better? Knowing he cried his eyes out over his lost fiancée in that very same house, soaking in his miserable existence. So, tell me folks, was I the jerk? I have to be honest, a lot of these stories are incredibly satisfying for me to read. This is definitely one of those. Sounds like this ex-husband strictly just got what was coming to him. And his sister got it along the way too. It seems fitting that they should have to suffer each other as a result. I am glad the original poster was able to get out of the situation they were in and find someone who was able to treat them the way they deserve. Nothing about their revenge seems unjustified as far as I'm concerned. The only person I really feel sorry for in this situation is the father, because unfortunately he now has to live with these two going at each other's throats all the time and fighting over his inheritance. But at the end of the day, I guess this is about as good as it could have ended for our original poster. I'm sorry, sir, I don't have a manager, I'm the owner. I used to work for a particularly large internet service provider doing tech support. One day, the guy working next to me was dealing with a particularly rude business customer. The business customers were usually treated like kings, but this guy was having a particularly hard time even getting a word in. Eventually, he puts up his hand to motion the supervisor to come talk to the customer. Right then, the owner of the company happened to be walking by with one of the other executives. I've met the guy a few times at company social events, and he's a really down-to-earth, employee-friendly boss. He asked what the issue was with his customer, and after it was explained, he took the headset and picked up the line. After listening for about 4 to 5 minutes, he said very flatly,
"That's never gonna happen, especially not when you have an attitude like a 13-year-old girl."
Again, listening for a few minutes before he said,
"I don't have a manager, I own this company, and I don't have to listen to this crap from a jerk like you, and neither do my employees. I'm terminating your account with us."
He hung up, and I watched him disable this guy's account and add a note to the file.
"Customer is a jerk. Do not reinstate account. Signed, boss."
Then he just handed back the headset and carried on about his day. Edit, since so many people have asked, the issue the guy was going nuts about was something to do with a delay in testing for a fault on his line. Something that's done by the phone company and not the internet service provider. We literally have nothing to do with it other than submitting the request for testing to them. Some customers are just jerks. It's always nice when we have a moment like this, when people think that they can talk to customer service representatives however they want because they're just the low man on the totem pole and it's their job to get yelled at. Little did this customer know that he was actually talking to the owner of the company. And as the owner, he gets to do what every employee wants to do, which is tell this customer to shove it and just cancel their account. I'm sure this made the customer's life at least a little more difficult for the next few days trying to get everything back and set up for their business. Maybe next time they can learn to be a little more polite. Looks like I have a junior Karen in my physics class. Junior Karen is in my class this semester. Entry-level course, students are around 18 years old. First week, I teach physics, and that day I used an example based on the scan of a running body. I then let the student work on another example based on a javelin. Junior Karen raises her hand to signal she has a question. I walk to her desk and she asks, "Can you tell me what my finger has?" I don't understand, so I freeze, confused. She then puts her finger really close to my face and I see some reddish skin shedding. My finger hurts and I don't know what it is. I'm baffled and I say I'm not a doctor and that questions about physics would be more appropriate. Well, you talked about the body of a person running. I thought you were a doctor. A few days later, we're in the computer lab. They have to follow a few simple steps written on a sheet of paper to retrieve some files. She raises her hand. Apparently, the computer's broken. She says that when she follows the first step, the computer shuts down. The first step is to click on the start menu. She repeatedly pushed the power button, the start button. She did a few other dumb things not worth mentioning, but she managed a 0 on her final exam. The weird part is that her copy was not blank. In fact, it was filled with some words and equations. Just nothing made sense. But it wasn't like some students do when they don't know the answer. Usually those are copying formulas for the sake of putting something on the paper, and you can see on paper that those students do not feel strongly about their performance. Her exam was not like that. It was an actual resolution of the problem. Basic algebra logic was thrown out of the window, but her way of giving her answers was full of confidence. I don't know if it makes sense. Anyway, never seen someone so blind about their lack of skills. She failed way under the passing grade and asked to see her exam in my office. She tried to argue about my grading being too harsh. I explained calmly how everything was defying reality on her copy, but she was still arguing some of it was good. I'm oversimplifying here, but her arguments were like, okay, you said I should have used the conservative principle of energy here and the answer was 256, but my answer was 28 and I have at least one digit correct, even without using the right approach. I don't even know how she made it that far. I don't even know how she will be able to provide for herself as an adult. So for once here, I feel like we don't really have a jerk. I don't think the teacher was being a jerk, just doing their job and failing a student who did nothing to pass the course. And a student who wasn't as much of a jerk, but was just kind of completely clueless. I don't know, this one's a little weird for me. I don't really dislike the antagonist in this. Yes, they may be a little annoying and clueless, but they're not a jerk, so ultimately I just kind of hope they get their act together. That's all. My maid of honor refuses to spend the day with me on the day before my wedding. So I'm a 33-year-old female and my fiance is a 29-year-old male, and we're getting married in August. We happen to share the same birthday and our wedding is the day after. My maid of honor, Bex, 25-year-old female, also has the same birthday as us. So for the day of the wedding, I had suggested to Bex that she join us, mine and my fiance's family, for lunch and then help me to prepare for my wedding day. I also asked that she share a hotel room with me the night before so she can be there for me the moment I wake up to support and calm me. She agreed to stay in the hotel with me, but was a little bit vague about agreeing to lunch, as she said she didn't know if she would have plans, and this was a few weeks prior. Skip to today, and Bex's husband Lee messages me to say that he's organized a romantic day out for Bex's birthday, ending with a concert. He told me that it was going to be a surprise for her, so he was letting me know in advance so that I could plan for her absence the day before the wedding. I'll admit that I became sharp with Lee. I told him that it was inconsiderate of him to book something for Bex the day before my wedding when he knew she had responsibilities. Lee told me I was a crazy bridezilla if I thought I was going to make Bex do slave labor on her birthday. Bex is really good at organizing and she loves to help. I don't think she'd see it that way. Lee did say that if Bex still wanted to come back to my hotel room after the concert, that he wouldn't stop her, but that I absolutely cannot have her during the day. I went to one of my bridesmaids, Val, 29-year-old female, and she agreed with Lee that I obviously have to let Bex go off and enjoy her birthday. I told Val that I was annoyed that Lee hadn't even asked me if I could spare Bex. He had just told me that she wasn't going to be available. I also told her that Lee hadn't even offered me his concert ticket so that Bex, my maid of honor, and I could have a fun evening together the day before my wedding. She told someone what I said, and now I'm getting hateful messages from my other bridesmaid and friends saying I can't behave that way. All I want is to spend the day before my wedding with my maid of honor. Am I really the jerk? Ooh. Yeah, I think this one we do have a little bit of a jerk on our hands. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand wanting to spend time with your friend and it's a big day for you coming up and you feel you need their support. But it seems like she's been giving you her support very consistently and helping you plan the wedding and get everything ready, along with agreeing to be your maid of honor and be there beside you on your wedding day. But if her husband has planned something very special for her birthday, I think it's fair that she should get to enjoy her time as well. She's still going to be there for everything that you need the day of. Let her have the day of her birthday off to herself. I really do feel like you're being very greedy with your friend's time here. I do hope that everything came to a reasonable conclusion and there wasn't any lasting damage done to the friendship because of this. My family's mad at me because I wouldn't let the other kids go in my special needs foster child's safe area. My husband and I have 4 kids, Allie 17, Andrew 15, Charlotte 12, and Lucas 9. And we've been fostering Emily 6 for almost a year. Emily has special needs. She gets overwhelmed easily, and when she gets overwhelmed, she hides. Emily is also very small and a master at getting herself into tight spaces. Under the couch, inside a kitchen cabinet, inside a dollhouse, etc. So when she hides, it can take forever to find her. She'll also lock the door of the room that she's hiding in, then hide to make it that much harder to get to her. We bought her a tent shortly after she moved in with us. We let her pick out everything in the tent from the mat on the floor to the toys and books inside, and we got her to go to the tent whenever she gets overwhelmed or feels like she has to hide. Nobody is allowed in that tent without Emily's permission. We have the tent in the corner of the living room. It's one of the few places where she can't lock a door and we can see her in the tent from most places in the house. My family hosted Christmas this year. Before everyone came over, we told Emily to put away whatever toys she didn't want anyone playing with. She put some of her toys in her tent and some in her room and insisted on locking the door. When everyone got here, Emily hid in her tent and started to play with her toys. We explained to the kids that that the tent is Emily's special place and that they aren't allowed to go inside or use any of the toys inside. The kids were upset, but we had a couple of toys for them. Plus, Lucas was willing to share his toys. My siblings approached me multiple times on Christmas and asked why I put something so tempting as a tent full of toys in front of their kids, then say they're not allowed to use it. I explained that the tent prevents Emily from endangering herself and that it has to be there because it's one of the few places where we can see it from most places in the house. When we got Emily out of the tent, some of the kids tried to go inside, and I told them they're not allowed in even when Emily isn't in the tent. I closed it up and put duct tape on the zipper to prevent the kids from opening it. Some siblings left right after we ate because of the tent, and some stayed but berated me in private for taunting their kids with the tent. My parents agreed with my siblings that it was rude and want to host future holidays, so Emily won't have the tent. Was I the jerk for keeping the tent in plain sight when there were kids that would want to use it? So for this one, I don't think that the original poster has really been a jerk in any way. It could be considered an oversight to not have thought to maybe put the tent somewhere else so that the other kids wouldn't be tempted, but this is a special situation for this child and they want to be able to have clear view of her. I can understand the kids not being able to understand this, but the parents should, and should be doing their best to try and make the kids understand as well that that was Emily's private space. I do think it's going overboard for everyone in the family to be coming at the original poster over this. At the end of the day, she's just trying to do what she feels she needs to do to look after her child. My fiance is going a little bit crazy in preparation for our wedding with my mom, but I really just need her to go along with it. I'm currently planning a wedding with my beautiful fiance, Annie. My mom and Annie had a meh relationship. They aren't crazy about each other, not particularly close, but they don't have many issues. My mom and I have never been close, so it isn't one of those crazy mother-in-law situations. Just everyone is lukewarm about each other. Annie has an anxiety disorder and does attend therapy, though it is not entirely under control. She tends to worry about situations which are very unlikely to happen. Annie recently found out that my mom at one point intentionally spilled something on a bride at her wedding. Now, this was decades ago. She was 16 and absolutely obsessed with my father, who rightfully wanted nothing to do with her since she was 16. She was extremely jealous of his first wife and accidentally spilled something at the reception. Annie only found out about this because my dad thinks it's a funny story to tell. My mom was a completely out of control bratty teenager who did mellow. Well, the issue is Annie is now worried my mom could do the same to her. I tried to reason with her that my mom in no way hates her, and why would she? Annie admits it isn't logical, but claims she can't help it. She says my mom doesn't love her either, and some mother-in-laws just get like that. So she's set a boundary that my mom can't have anything in her hand if she approaches us at the wedding. My mom is obviously hurt, as she would never do something like that. I get it is a hurtful assumption, but I asked her to just suck it up and deal with it. It is Annie's big day, and she doesn't need any stress. My mom said I was treating her like she's crazy for something she did in high school, and it's hurtful. My dad, who's paying for the wedding if that matters, is absolutely furious and currently won't even talk to Annie. I get their point, but I'm still asking them to just suck it up and go along for one day. Am I being the jerk? Oh, so this is another one where I feel like we might have a little bit of a bridezilla here. Now, not saying that this is an extreme of the situation. I understand she has anxiety issues, and that's where most of this is coming from. She understands that it's not reasonable, but can't help but feel the way that she feels. I feel like this really comes down to the poster. It's your job to try and comfort your fiance and reassure her. What she's asking is unreasonable. I get that this is her special day, but you need to understand that these are still people that you're dealing with. People that are now going to be your family. You need to have a level of trust with these people. Yeah, I do think this is one where our poster was being a bit of a jerk. It's a difficult situation he's in, but I still think he's being a jerk. My boyfriend didn't want to buy me the necklace, so I bought it for myself. My boyfriend Nate and I, 21-year-old male and 20-year-old female, have been together for over a year, but we met in freshman year of uni. We both have jobs outside of school. I'm not a big jewelry fan, but there was this necklace I really wanted ever since I saw it on Pandora. It was love at first sight. I asked Nate if he could give it to me for my birthday. He didn't want to spend a lot, so I found some alternatives on Etsy he could look at that were more affordable. I think a $25 pendant versus $75 on the Pandora site. Since then, my birthday, our anniversary, and Valentine's Day happened, and I never got the necklace. He gave me candy and a hat, which is disappointing when he treats himself to a PS5 and some new games. So when I saw the necklace for sale online, I decided, screw it, I'll get it for myself. I've been wearing it ever since I got it in the mail. Recently, my classmates asked me if Nate bought me the necklace for Christmas. I proudly told them no, I got it myself. They all know how much I wanted it, and a few of them are now making fun of Nate for not doing the thing for me. Nate is upset that I embarrassed him in front of our class and friends. He got even more upset when I told him that he had a year to get me the necklace. He wants me to apologize, but I won't. As far as I'm concerned, I did what I had to do when he wouldn't. Am I the jerk? Absolutely not. The boyfriend had plenty of opportunities to get it and chose not to. And it's not even as if a $75 necklace is really that expensive in terms of jewelry. It sounds like he has some disposable income which he's choosing to spend on himself. You chose to do the same thing for yourself. He buys the things that he wants and you buy the things that you want. Him being made fun of by his peers is because he didn't do the thing that he should have done. No fault on you for having done it for yourself. Enjoy your necklace. Karen calls the cops because I won't give her my house? Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell for notifications. At the beginning of lockdowns here in Germany, my mother came to me saying I should let her live with me in my house because, wait for it, I'm your mother. Well, I let her move into the granny apartment. It has a separate entrance and has one bedroom, one bathroom, kitchen and dining room, and living room. While she slept in the apartment, she used the main kitchen to cook her meals, but refused to cook shared meals, used the main living room to watch TV, and basically acted as if she owned the house. Any of my complaints, she likewise dismissed with, I'm your mother. It all came to a head when I was working on a computer in the living room. There was a lull while the system setup was doing its thing, so I went to the kitchen to brew tea and have a snack. During this time, my mother went into the living room to watch TV, but I had been listening to Vivaldi's Four Seasons. So she started pulling power plugs in an attempt to shut off the music. One of the first plugs she pulled was of course the computer I'd been working on. When I came back from the kitchen, she rejected any fault for it. According to her, it was clearly my fault because she had to shut off the music to watch TV. So why should she feel free to shut off my music in my house? Not to mention that I had to start over the system setup? Well, because I'm your mother. I countered with, and my mother is a guest in my house, so until you behave like a guest, you better go to your apartment. She didn't like being treated like that one bit. Well, she went to her apartment and then left. I went to a hardware store and bought new locks. Until then, the keys for the main door also worked for the apartment door and vice versa. The inside door connecting the apartment and the main house didn't have a lock at all. So yes, I locked her out of the main part of the house. And then the phone calls started. First from my brother, to whom I suggested he take her in. The house he lives in alone is even larger than mine. Then my older sister, who has 2 spare rooms in her and her husband's condo since her children moved out long ago, and who didn't like the suggestion she should take our mother in either. My sister's daughter was somewhat surprised when I explained to her that the house belongs to me and not to her grandmother. Her brother only called to get my confirmation about that. My brother's son was actually on my side but warned me about my mother planning something. So a few days later, while running errands, I get a call from the hardware store, from which I bought the new locks. They told me that the police had called them to send someone to open the house. What had my mother done? She called the police for help because her son had locked her out of the house. When the officers at my house confronted me with that, I simply told them to try her key at the door on the side. Obviously, they hadn't done that before. Then they wanted proof that it was actually I who owned the house. Oddly enough, the copies of the deed I had at home were nowhere to be found. So I called my attorney and he sent one of his partners with new copies. He also brought eviction papers telling me to consider it. I simply asked for a pen. A couple of days later, my mother moved in with my brother. Brother, older sister, and her husband helped her with her stuff. Brother made a last effort to make me change my mind. My sister merely treated me with contempt. Brother-in-law told me quietly he vetoed our mother moving in with them before my sister even made the suggestion. But this still isn't the end of it. The police officers are pressing charges for falsely reporting a crime, me locking her out. Everyone and his little brother has called me to take back the charges. Even though I hadn't pressed them in the first place, it's out of my hands, and to tell the police that it's all just a misunderstanding, or at least to put in a good word for her. Why? Of course, because she's your mother. But honestly, am I the jerk? So, in a slightly different situation, I feel like I might have said yes. But in this case, he tried several times to explain to her that this is his own space and she can't just do what she wants in it. She even has all of her own space downstairs with a full living room and kitchen and all those things. If you want to spend time upstairs with the family, then sure, that's understandable. But you can't just come up and dominate the area of his own house. And the go-to excuse of "I'm your mother" just doesn't fly. Also, the fact that none of the other siblings were particularly eager to take her in does say something. So I'm gonna have to rule on the verdict of no, not a jerk for this one. It's just a matter of defending your own personal space. Entitled couple makes the mistake of assuming my wife works here. My wife and I are senior citizens. In other words, we are old. My dear wife is a strong, independent, take no crap from anyone type of woman, and I adore her for it. She keeps me in line and pushes me to be a better man, and is the reason behind my modest success in life. She's sarcastic, wicked smart, can cuss like a sailor, and as she gets older, her filter is practically non-existent. A few months ago, we decided to treat ourselves, and we made reservations and went to a rather high-end restaurant. They had a maitre d', sommeliers, highly trained waitstaff, etc. My wife, even though she's in her 70s, has very little gray hair and can pass for 55. She was wearing a very pretty white lacy blouse, very flattering black pants, and black flats. She looked really good. When we arrived, there was no line, surprisingly, and the maitre d' had apparently stepped away from the podium where he stands. We were waiting there and my wife was right next to the podium and I had sat down at one of the benches provided by the entrance when another couple came in. Without missing a beat, the man walks up to the podium and told my wife,
"Rockefeller,
not the name he used.
we have reservations for two."
My wife said that she was sure someone would be with them shortly. The woman huffed a little and the man said,
"Please seat us now."
My wife told them she's waiting to be seated, but the man said again,
"Seat us now."
So my wife said, "Right away, walk this way." And she walked with them behind her as she walked around the partition separating the entrance to the dining room, circled around to the other end and led them back to the entrance and pointing to the bench said, "Sit down." The man looked like he was going to blow a gasket, and my wife repeated, "I don't work here, you moron. You wanted me to seat you? So sit the F down." As the couple were sputtering, and before it could escalate further, the maitre d' arrived and we gave our name and he led us away. There was no yelling and no threats of police. We had a wonderful meal, overpriced, but oh well, and the other couple was several tables away from us. We didn't interact with them again, but they did shoot us dirty looks now and then. Now, before you say my wife overreacted and could have explained that she didn't work there in a better way, she has a wicked sense of humor and hates idiots. She loves being a smart aleck and is just so good at it. It's one of the reasons that I, after being with her for all these years, still love being put in my place by her when I start getting a little too misogynistic. But I'll let you tell me, was my wife being a jerk? Yeah, again, this is just another one of entitled people getting put in their place. Embarrassing someone a little bit who's being obnoxiously rude to your face is not being a jerk. In this case, they're probably just ashamed of their behavior and don't want to have to admit to acting like a jerk themselves. It sounds like there was no escalation or harm done over any of this, though. Both parties sit down, enjoy their meals, and go their separate ways. My desktop is not the same as your desktop. So this just happened like a minute ago. One of the team leads in my department was having trouble getting something to work in Excel and pinged me for help. I asked if she could email me the spreadsheet so I could take a look myself, and she sends me a link instead to the spreadsheet on her desktop, as in her C drive /users/username/desktop. I began rubbing my temples because I knew this particular person well enough to know that a simple explanation would not be heard, processed, and acted on. But I had to try anyway. I responded explaining that I can't access files stored on her hard drive and that she needs to send it to me as an attachment. She responds by saying, "It's on the desktop. If the link won't work, just open it." I again explained that her desktop and my desktop are not the same thing, and I am no more able to open items on her desktop than she is of opening things on mine. She responds, somehow arguing with the guy that she wants help from, "If I'm so incompetent, why are you asking me for help?" that she's opened the recycle bin, and I have a recycle bin. Therefore, since we both have recycle bins, I should be able to open things on her desktop. This is the point where I dial back the professionalism and let my tenure absorb the hit if she pitches a fit. I say, "Excuse me," and get up, then turn on the kitchen faucet. I work from home and I know from prior experience that it's audible from my home office. I sit back down at my desk and say, "I've just turned my kitchen faucet on. Do you have any water in your sink?" The silence lasted a good 10 seconds and I swear I could almost hear the hamster wheel in her head straining. And finally she says, quietly and clearly trying to sound as neutral and unflustered as possible, "Okay, that makes sense. I'll send it over as an attachment." But I don't think I was being a jerk, was I? As someone who's worked in tech, this is actually just hilarious to me. No, I don't think you were being a jerk at all. This was just an attempt to make a clear way to understand something that she otherwise wasn't understanding. I totally get how frustrating it can be trying to explain this kind of process to someone who just isn't picking up what you're putting down. And as the tech support guy, I'm sure they have to deal with this all the time. Like he said, he's familiar enough with this lady to know that she's not going to understand a simple explanation. He just happened to find a funny and maybe slightly sarcastic way of explaining it to her. No real harm done here. And let's be honest, it was pretty funny. Apparently, I'm a jerk for not giving my grandson a job that I offered him. I always wished my sons would like to follow in my footsteps. I own a small business that pays really well and I wanted them to work for me and learn how to manage it so they can have it after me. But neither of them was interested, which is alright. I understand that they have their own dreams. My granddaughter, who turned 16 9 months ago, was looking for a part-time job. She asked me if she can work from me and learn from me. She's been doing a really good job and is planning to work with me full-time after high school. I'm of course very glad that one of my kids is finally showing interest in my job, and since she's my granddaughter, I pay her more than I would any stranger. Also, she gets to set her own schedule, so basically I'm more flexible with her. My sons and their families were all at my home a few days ago. We were all talking and the conversation went towards jobs. My son asked my granddaughter about her job and was peeved when he found out the payment and schedule. He said that his son, 17, had a job that is harder than hers and pays less. He accused me of favoring my granddaughter and asked me to give my grandson a job. I told him that my grandson had the option to take this job but didn't. He said they didn't know the conditions of this job. I told him there's no opening anymore and I don't want the business to be split between multiple people. Granddaughter is going to get the business. Everyone else had the chance but decided not to use it. He called me a jerk and said it's not fair to give her everything and not give my grandson anything. I don't know. Am I being a jerk? This just kind of feels like one of those situations where someone finds out after the fact what a good deal they were offered and are just kind of peeved that they turned it down. It's no fault of the original poster that the granddaughter decided to take the position. It had been open for however long and was available to anyone who was interested. She just seems to be the only one that ever really showed an interest in it. I feel like it's hard to get upset after the fact and try and throw blame elsewhere. Definitely not a jerk for this one. I couldn't help but be honest with my mother-in-law about why I was making my husband sleep on the couch. My husband and I had a big fight last night because of how he was talking about the women his two bosses are married to. Basically, he works at a firm owned by two business partners and their wives despise each other. Everyone at the firm knows it, so they decided to do a prank at the company party and get them to unknowingly wear the same dress. Personally, I didn't think it was funny as I don't like seeing women treated like that, but everyone thought it was hilarious. I recently overheard my husband talking to a coworker and the guy mentioned having a good picture of it. My husband made a joke about how he should send him that picture as they're both so beautiful it would be like having a piece of art. Needless to say, I was beyond hurt and I had him sleep on the couch. My mother-in-law came over later in the day to pick up our kids. She's pretty nosy and usually when she asks questions, I'm honest and tell her it's none of her business. But I thought she should know what type of son she raised. So when she asked why there were pillows and blankets on the couch, I answered honestly. Mother-in-law thought it was funny and told father-in-law, who made a gross comment about how if my husband was more successful, maybe he could have a wife who looked like them. This really hurt my husband and now he's saying that I'm the jerk because I know how his parents are and I weaponized them to hurt him. He feels I was petty as I normally have no issue telling mother-in-law to mind her own business. So was I being the jerk? Alright, there seems like a lot that's off with this story, and I'm really hoping that my male perspective here isn't skewing me. I feel like having the husband sleep on the couch for this is a bit of an overreaction. This seems like a prank that a bunch of other people kind of started and were involved in, and your husband was just kind of laughing about with a coworker. I could understand her potentially being a little upset over this prank. However, that's just all it was a small prank I feel. No one was hurt, and no harm was really done in this instance. What bothers me a lot more is the comment that came from the father-in-law about how if his son maybe made more money, he would have a better looking wife, either implying he would be with a better looking woman or she could afford to look better, both of which are offensive. Yet this seems to be the comment that goes almost unregistered by the wife. I don't know, something seems a little off with this whole thing. I don't know. I feel like this whole thing was just a bit of an overreaction. Sorry sis, it's not my fault you never got to go to your dream school. The family dynamic is messy and complicated, but I'll try and clear up any confusion. I'm the oldest out of my 4 siblings. Me, 43-year-old male, Julia, 40-year-old female, Kenzie, 27-year-old female, and Katie, 23-year-old female. Julia doesn't play a part of this. She disowned the family and yeah. Our dad ran out on us and mom was busted for possession among other crimes when Katie and Kenzie were still very young. So they ended up in the custody of my grandma. If you ask them, they survived World War II, but it wasn't that bad. Our grandma was overly protective and tired of having to take care of kids again, but nothing extreme. Her health rapidly declined in their early teen years. I was out of state, so I wasn't a physical caregiver. I was power of attorney, so I was a financial caregiver while they took care of the physical needs. Katie was going to drop out of high school. She barely graduated. This is important for the future. Once she graduated, her and Kenzie came to me. They said they wanted to put grandma in a home so Kenzie could take a manager position. And Katie wanted to get out of town, go to our state capital, take classes at a community college, and transfer to their selective university. She said a teacher who knew her situation believed she had potential to get there and become something great. They said it wasn't possible when caring for grandma. I told them no. They've resented me since. Katie went to a community college in our town and flunked out right away. After grandma died, she went back and has been doing all right. She fell into depression after her boyfriend cheated on her. She was talking about it to Kenzie and myself and said the thing that hurt was the person he cheated with was beautiful, talented, and then she said his affair partner actually goes to her dream school. She said this girl was everything she should have had in life. Well-rounded high school experience, experience, parents to support her, a great education, and now this girl had truly taken everything from her. Then she mentioned she should have been at that school, but she was wiping the butt of something who called her every name in the book for 2 more years longer than she should have. This isn't the first time she's been tipsy and made a passive-aggressive comment, so I told her, Katie, I'm not the reason you couldn't go into your dream school. You failed out right away from community college, and would have did the same thing there. You weren't ready and can't accept that. Kenzie told me that I was being a jerk who didn't understand burnout. Am I the jerk? Yeah, this is a situation that I definitely feel like could have been handled in a lot of different ways, and a lot of those probably being better than the way it was handled. It seems like the original poster may have kind of brushed aside how his sisters were feeling. They had stated their displeasure at living with grandma, let alone having to take care of her for an extended number of years. Once the time came for them to properly try and start their lives, they came to him asking for some kind of help and relief. It seems like this maybe should have been considered a little more carefully than just a straight up no. At the end of the day, perhaps a home is the best place for grandma at that point, where she can properly be looked after. It may also be that the original poster just didn't want to have to pay for it and felt he was getting free labor from his sisters. I would like to hope that isn't the intent here, but it seems like that may be the case. I feel like I gotta make the call on this one. You're being a jerk. Sorry, husband, I know you want to play video games, but you still have responsibilities. Ever since Modern Warfare 2 came out, all my husband has done is play it. He doesn't help with the baby and gives me attitude if I tell him to stop playing. His father is in town visiting and he's been ignoring him the whole time and has been on this stupid game. I finally snapped at him today and told him I don't want him playing the video game anymore. He needed to wake up today so he could take his dad to meet someone to buy a truck. He's driving back instead of flying, but he wouldn't get up. So I had to take our daughter with me to meet a stranger because he wouldn't get up to go with his dad. I blew up on him via text telling him that I was sick of this and I was tired of him putting a video game over his family. He told me I was being the jerk for trying to limit his video game time because he's depressed. I'm tired of feeling like a single mom to a video game. Am I the jerk for telling him I don't want him playing it anymore? Not that it matters because he's still playing it now at 2:18 in the morning. Alright, so this one at face value definitely seems like the husband is probably just trying to avoid doing anything and just wants to play his video game instead. Now, in the interest of listening to both parties' sides of the story, he does say that he's depressed. As someone who's had to deal with depression, I do understand how it can be hard to have to deal with regular everyday situations, and how you kind of want to just be left alone and do your own thing. But it's pretty clear that he has some serious responsibilities here with a baby in the house and his father in town needing his help, so sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. Sometimes you have to pull yourself out of that hole and just get over that bump and start moving. Once you get going, it's really not so bad, and you can get done what you needed to do, and then be able to enjoy your game a little bit more without feeling guilty about not having taken care of the tasks you needed to take care of. Original poster, definitely not the jerk in this situation. Husband kinda seems like he's being the jerk, and maybe just using depression as an excuse. But it isn't something that you ever want to assume someone is using as an excuse, and if he really is depressed, I hope he's getting the help he needs. I accidentally showed up at a homicide scene with a camera. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell for notifications. In the 1990s, I was a TV news stringer, a freelance news cameraman in San Francisco. I would listen to the police scanners mounted in my car and rush to the scene of breaking news stories where I would get my video camera out, record news footage, and sell it to the local TV stations. One night, I heard the police get called to a homicide scene. I scooted over there and parked and got my camera out of my trunk just as a couple of homicide detectives pulled up. I should explain that my camera was a mid-sized industrial industrial model, not one of those huge multi-$1,000 broadcast models that only the TV stations could afford. The detective spotted me holding my gear and motioned me over to the house where the murder had taken place and held the door open for me to enter. I'm flabbergasted. This has never happened to me before. Usually when the cops see me show up, they start throwing up police line tape to keep me and my camera as far back as they can. This is a very unexpected welcome, but hey, I'll take it. I walk in and shoot a couple wide establishing shots along with getting a couple of medium shots, and about then in walks another cameraman with a camera about the same size as mine, only he is wearing a San Francisco Police Department badge on his belt. Everyone looks at him and then they all turn and look at me. Finally, someone breaks the silence by asking me, "Who are you?" I respond, "TV News." The officers who had held the door open for me blanch and give each other an "oh crap" look as they realize their mistake. You shouldn't be here," he says. I say no problem and I leave. Just to be clear, I did not use the footage that I managed to shoot inside the crime scene in the package I sold to the TV stations. If I had, I'm sure that several hardworking police officers would have gotten into trouble. No need for that to happen. I suspect that decision on my part was appreciated, as I ran into the same cops at other scenes in the following years and they always treated me both friendly and fairly. In fact, I got a call or three over the years suggesting that I and my camera might want to be at a particular place at a particular date and time, almost always resulting in me getting exclusive footage of this or that major bust. I wasn't a jerk, right? They didn't seem to think so. No, I don't think there's any jerk here. Just a simple misunderstanding. The police officers here might be considered the jerks for just not really paying attention and making a mistake, but hey, we all do it. At least the person they made the mistake with was friendly and didn't screw them over for it. No harm done here. Just a funny story. I like this one. How not to ask a girl to the sweetheart dance. All the dances and the fear of asking that one person to the dance. Friends providing all kinds of advice, some good, some bad, and some advice that is never even meant to be considered. But we probably wouldn't be here if they followed all the good advice, right? No, this is a story about my good friend Skip. Skip had a major crush on a girl who I will call Sally. Sally was that girl who had all the right things. Great hair, amazing personality, and she loved it when guys were super creative when they would ask her out on dates. The more creative, the more you had her attention. It was getting close to Valentine's Day. Time for the dance we called the Sweethearts Ball. Skip desperately wanted to ask Sally to the dance, but couldn't come up with a creative enough way to ask her. Myself and our friend were popping off suggestions while at lunch. Me. Dude, you could always send her some roses and say, "My heart would be like these roses in full bloom and full of life if you go to the Sweethearts dance with me." Friend 1. Nah, dude, send her a bag of M&Ms and say it would be so sweet if you'd go to the Sweethearts with me. Friend 2. And this is where the problem starts. Dude, you should toilet paper her car and say it would wipe me out if you went to the Sweethearts with me. Friend 3.
Dude, that's stupid. Why not pour a heart shape on her lawn with gasoline and light it on fire and say my heart would go up in flames if you went to the Sweethearts with me? Seriously? Toilet paper, dude? No. Just say I'm shy, I'm bashful, and I could overcome all of this if you went to Sweethearts with me. Skip, listening to all of this, had his mind clamp around one thing that was mentioned. I'm sure at this point, some of you have already figured out the one he chose to do. This was all on a Friday. Now, none of us were present when Skip asked her, however, we did see the aftermath. Here are the events that followed. Monday, Sally avoided Skip like he's a psycho. Tuesday, Skip started to behave very weird, very nervous and looking over his shoulder. Wednesday, Skip's name is called over the intercom system before classes start. About 10 minutes later, principal office calls myself and a couple of friends. We're told to sit outside the office and we hear a very loud conversation happening inside. Me.
Dude, what the hell did Skip do? Friend 1.
Don't know. Not sure how we're involved here.
Friend 2.
He did something stupid, I'm sure.
Me. Dude, do you think he did the toilet paper thing? Friend 2.
No, this is something bigger.
Friend 1.
Our names had to be dropped sometime, dude.
Me. It's kind of freaking me out. About this time, Sally walks into the office, smirk on her face. She says, have they told him yet? All of us totally confused. Friend 1.
Told him what?
That's when the door opens and Skip comes out handcuffed, crying his eyes out, repeating over and over again, sorry, sorry, I'm so sorry. It was then Sally walks up to him and gives him a huge hug. Sally. Oh, by the way, yes, I will go to the Sweethearts Ball with you. Our jaws just drop. We're all thinking, what the heck just happened? They uncuff him and he has a what the heck look as well. The fire marshal then walks out laughing. Fire marshal.
It was all her idea. I couldn't refuse my little girl. However, you ever set fire to my lawn again, and I'll kick your butt. You will come fix it. And you 3, stop putting ideas into his head. He will clearly do anything you guys tell him to.
That was the day we found out Sally's father was the fire marshal in our county. He and the sheriff gave him a tongue lashing for setting fire to his front yard with a heart shape burning in the grass, and a sign by the front door saying, my heart will go up in flames if you went to the Sweethearts with me. It was a really good dance and we all had a ton of fun. Skip and Sally have been happily married for 23 years now. So I feel like something's missing from this story. Maybe it's the part at the end where everyone was supposed to clap. I don't know. Something about this one just feels a little too tall of a tale for me personally, but let's reserve judgment and analyze it as it is. Do we have a jerk in this story? I'd say we have a lot of minor jerks in this story. First, we have Skip, who was dumb enough to listen to his friend's not advice and set the girl's lawn on fire. We have Sally, who decided to play this little prank on him in return. And then we have the fire marshal, sheriff, and principal all going along with it to give this kid a hard time. It all just seems a little too dramatic. In my mind, this is a situation that could have involved a whole lot less moving parts. But he wanted to go big and get her to notice him, and I guess he got that. So I guess we call this one a win? I refuse to see my grandmother unless she gives me a genuine apology. I, a 15-year-old female, went to visit my grandma for New Year's Eve because she has broken her wrist and injured her hip, and I didn't want her to be alone on New Year's Eve. I came the day before to grocery shop for her to help clean and spend some time with our dog. As soon as I came back from the store, I took the leash to walk the dog, and she looked up at me from the couch and said,
Good to see you doing something about the extra Christmas weight.
It hurt me since I have started working out to try to become more healthy, and I thought I was doing well. I'll be honest, I cried a little on the walk. While making dinner on New Year's Eve, she came into the kitchen and said,
Of course you chose the products with the most fat.
I didn't know why that mattered and said, well, you didn't tell me to buy low fat and I paid for it, so I don't see why it matters. I told her to stop commenting on my body, it's none of her business, and my doctor told me I'm on the right path. She said nothing and went back to the living room. New Year's Eve dinner was just her commenting on my diet, telling me not to stuff myself, and kept trying to scold me about my finances. She even brought my mom into this, talking about how she never saved, so that's probably why I'm so bad with money. I'm not. I got upset and told her, stop commenting on my body and don't you dare bring my mom, your own daughter, into this. To stop commenting on my diet and to start being thankful for what I had done for her the past day. I didn't need to buy and cook her food, clean her house, or walk her dog. I did it because I wanted to, and she never thanked me. I admit I did raise my voice for a moment, but that was because tears were starting to fill my eyes, and I'm not good at being emotional in front of anyone. After I calmed down, I packed my bag and took the train home. I sent her a text saying I would not come back unless she apologizes. The next morning, January 1st, she called me to say she was sorry I felt that way. I told her to stop feeling bad about how I feel and feel bad about her actions instead. Later the same day, my mom came to visit me, I live with my dad most of the time, and told me my grandmother had invited me to dinner. I told her I would not go unless she gives a genuine apology beforehand, and then told her what happened. Now my grandmother and mom are mad at me, so I think I might be wrong. Am I being a jerk? So this is one of those situations where maybe I feel differently than some of our other viewers. I don't think our original poster's being a jerk here, and I think most people would agree with me on that. Now, some people might say that our poster is overreacting and should forgive his grandmother and that she's family. And this is where my personal opinion might be a little controversial. Just because you're family does not give you the right to be toxic to another family member. I've always been of the opinion if someone is being toxic to you when you are trying to be positive, you need to cut that person out. You don't need that kind of energy when you're trying to better yourself, even if that person's family. Being family does not give you any kind of immunity to being a bully. And that's exactly what Grandma's being here. I'm sure with a little time to look back and think about her actions, she will come to this realization. It sounds like she is trying to reach out to the original poster, so I hope everything ends well with this one. I had to tell my husband I will not be attending any more family events with him. My husband, 35, and myself, 33, have been married for 9 years, but have been together for 18 years. We have 4 kids together. Over the years, I swallowed my pride and faked a smile with my husband's family just to appease my husband and attend events with him. The only events I were invited to are the ones that my husband said he would bring me and the kids along for. I have noticed that any events that are just for the female ladies of his family, whether they were married into the family or just dating someone from the family, I was never invited to. I was fine with that until the recent 2 events where they had a ladies' day out and then proceeded to not invite me, but post pictures on social media and tag my husband in the pictures. While they also added me to the group chat and thanked everyone for attending the events, but I didn't attend because they did not invite me. I told my husband that I would no longer attend his family events with him, and he was highly upset. He accused me of hating his family and making him choose between us, me and the kids, and his family. I asked him why he thinks I hate his family, and he responded because I said that they don't like me, so I must hate them. That was his only excuse for why I wouldn't like his family. I never asked him to choose and would never ask him to. I also don't hate his family. I told my husband that he should still go and take our kids too, but I would not be going along. I told him the reasons I think his family doesn't like me. Number 1, I asked his sisters to be in our wedding as bridesmaids. They said yes, and a month later, they told him they would not be in our wedding. He begged them on 2 separate occasions to be in our wedding, and they refused. His family, including his sisters, did attend our wedding, but they all decided to wear white. His mom and sisters. They also tried to get our photographer to take family photos of them without me in the pictures. Number 2, his sister got married a year later and told me the only way I could be in her wedding was if I served food to the guests. I chose to attend as a guest instead of serving her guests, which she was upset about. I sat at a table by myself during her wedding. My husband was in her wedding as a groomsman. No, I was not allowed to take pictures with them at her wedding. Number 3, his mother was upset at me because her mother, his grandmother, argued with her because they wouldn't invite me to a family ladies' night. His grandmother told her that it was wrong that I was married to him but not invited to a family day out with the ladies. There are many other reasons, but I tried to stick to the reasons why I no longer will attend his family events with him. They're also friends with his first crush, and she is brought up a lot when I'm around. She even comes to family gatherings and has been to these ladies' events that I'm not invited to. I really don't think I'm being a jerk, am I? Oh, this one just kinda got worse and worse along the way, didn't it? First, to start off, no, I don't think you're being a jerk by not wanting to attend events with these people. There seems to be some underlying issue that they have with you. Maybe if it were discussed, everything could be addressed and you could move forward. But the issue might be that they just like the ex better, which is not fair to the wife at all. The husband made the decision that that wasn't the person they were going to be with and has chosen someone else. The rest of the family just needs to accept that and stop punishing her. And the husband should be able to understand how the wife is feeling in this situation. That all of this is clearly going to make her feel uncomfortable. It's either one of two resolutions as far as I see it. Either yes, she doesn't spend time with his family because they can't seem to respect her enough, or a conversation is had and people come to understand each other better. Honestly though, I think it needs to be addressed. I had to tell my mom that I don't want her coming to my graduation. I, 20-year-old female, am graduating with my bachelor's this year, and then I'm going on to a different school to take part in a master's program. I got my associate's degree in my senior year of high school because I was in a dual enrollment program, so that's why I'm a few years ahead of other people my age. My mom has always put a lot of emphasis on education. When I was in middle school, I went from a straight A student to mostly C's, and it was like she just gave up on me. I was struggling with my mental health at the time, so school was the last thing I was worried about. But when I got to my sophomore year of high school, I started focusing more on academia because I wanted my mom's approval. I've been in college non-stop since my junior year of high school. I took classes during the winter and summer semesters just so I could finish my studies faster. It's left me no time for anything else, honestly. But since I live with my dad, he's seen my course load and he's fine with me not working while I'm in school right now. On to the actual situation. I was talking to my mom on the phone and she brought up how all of her friends' kids are joining the workforce and accomplishing things that make their parents proud. She then asked why I wasn't doing anything that she could brag about, and I kind of laughed and asked why she didn't view me getting a bachelor's at 20 as something she could brag about. She told me that my accomplishments in school don't matter because it's easy to be good at school if I'm doing nothing else with my life. She said that she'd feel I was doing something more brag-worthy when I stopped being a hermit. I just snapped and told her that since my accomplishments in school don't matter, then my graduation doesn't matter either, so I'll just give her seat to someone else. I hung up after that, and she started texting me about how childish it is for me to exclude her from this and that she deserves to have a spot at my graduation. My dad found out what's going on because she called him and told him about it, and he told me that while he understood what my mother said was hurtful, I shouldn't deprive her or myself of this huge moment because of it. I felt justified at first, but now I'm conflicted. Am I being a jerk? Okay, this one's, I feel, a little bit of a tougher situation. We were talking earlier about family being bullies, and I feel this might be another one of those situations. Not to as huge of a degree as what we were looking at earlier, but still, a family member said something and it hurt our poster's feelings. Especially when our poster was trying to win that family member's approval. I feel like it was just a really insensitive comment that was made in the moment, and not meant to really be hurtful or damaging. I feel our poster has probably made their point by making this fuss about the situation and can maybe move past it for now. And hopefully mom can learn to mind her words a little bit more and understand how they might be having an impact. My family forgot to invite me to the holidays, while forgetting my birthday. Again, I, 44-year-old male, am the oldest of 3 children with no children, unless you count the fur babies. I have a younger brother who's 38, married with no kids, and a younger sister, 32, who just got married in October with 1 child. Also in the mix is my mother, and since 2017, they have all relocated to Florida from Michigan. I left home when I was 18 and lived in Wisconsin, but was very active in my family's lives as it was a short drive back to the family home. Once everyone moved to Florida, I try to fly down at least once or twice a year, depending on work, to see everyone and catch up, as I've taken over the family home back in Michigan and no one wanted to deal with the cold and snow anymore. Prior to the events of 2020, our holidays would typically look like this. We celebrate my birthday, which is on Halloween, then Thanksgiving, then Christmas and New Year's. I'm not one who has a need for big celebrations. A phone call or FaceTime will do accordingly, as we all have different lives. Fast forward to the start of this year. My sister gets married beginning of October. I fly down to be at the wedding and enjoy a great weekend with my family. Wedding was fabulous. When my birthday comes around, I'm ghosted by my brother and mother. My own mother forgets my birthday. My sister has my nephew call me on the iPad I paid for him to begrudgingly wish me a happy birthday before he he takes off. Okay, I'm slightly disappointed, but brush it off. My sister's birthday is November 19th, and she decides to come back to Michigan. Went out of my way to make sure she had a great time for her birthday. Thanksgiving is here, and it's time to get your pilgrim on. Nothing from my sister or brother, and around 7 p.m. I get a very vague text from my mother saying, "We will talk to you soon, enjoy yourself." Now I'm mad as I find out not only did they all eat together, but could have just called, and I'm getting angry. Now we're up to Christmas and New Year's and no phone calls, no FaceTimes with anyone. My mother at 10 to 7 sends a 2-line message of "I'll call you," and now I'm just super peeved and need to set and maintain some boundaries here. I first stop service and log out of the iPad I've been giving to my nephew. Text my entire family that they will no longer need to worry about missing me for the holidays, and proceed to block them from all my social media. Am I the jerk for this? Cause they have reached out to my other family members with their displeasure and concern. So again, this feels like a situation where actions are being taken before a conversation is happening. You can voice your displeasure with the situation without completely cutting everyone off immediately. That being said, I completely understand where you're coming from and how you feel. No one would like getting ghosted by their family, especially when it seems like everyone was so close before. From the family side, I understand that distance would make it seem difficult to try and celebrate these things with your son. But like he said, just reaching out or a FaceTime or any kind of interaction on a day like that means something. It's a very small gesture that goes a long way. I feel like for this one, I can't really call anyone a jerk. It just seems like an unfortunate situation that is maybe being taken a little too far here on our original poster's side, but as I said, I understand how they feel. Karen steals my wheelchair because her son is tired and wants to sit in it. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. Hey y'all, so this happened a few days ago and I'm just now feeling decent enough to type it out for everyone. Not an entitled mother-induced issue, just me being sick. I fly a lot. I've been surprised that the last couple times I haven't encountered any entitled people or jerks. In fact, it went pretty smoothly. I thought, oh wow, the curse is lifted. But we wouldn't be here if that had stayed the case, now would we? A few weeks ago, I hurt my ankle doing some filming and have been ordered to wear a boot and take it easy while my leg heals. I've been trying because I thought I'd be better by now, but the healing process on this injury is a slow one. I arrived at the airport and opted for a wheelchair given how much my foot was already hurting. I'm hobbling around in this giant boot, obviously injured, and now with a wheelchair. Probably best to leave me alone. Checking in and security goes fine. Everyone oohs and ahs at my cat while I take him out and hold him so security can do their thing. I don't blame them. My first son is a stunner and a cuddlebug. As they're swiping me for bomb residue, I see a little kid between 4 and 7, I guess. I'm bad with guessing ages for children. Nudges mom and point at me. I think nothing of it and put my fur baby back in his carrier and hobble my butt back over to the wheelchair. I grab my bag and shoe and I pop the carrier on my lap and we're good to head to the gate. I make some conversation with the guy helping me out, while I notice the kid and his mom also seem to have this gate. The guy helping me out finally parks me by the gate, and after petting my cat a bit, he heads off. Now it's very crowded. I don't think there's an open seat near our gate at all. If you haven't traveled with a wheelchair assist before, usually one of two things will happen. Either they leave you in the wheelchair by the gate and you can walk into the plane with the rest of the passengers when it's time, or in some cases they will directly wheel you to the plane door. This time I was left by the gate. I put the carrier on the ground next to me and make sure I have all my stuff from security. Eventually, I'm just messing around on my phone waiting for the flight when I feel a tap on my shoulder. I pull off my headphones. It's the entitled mother, protector of entitlement, 27,000th of her name, mother of Karens, and harbinger of doom, with her crotch goblin next to her. He seems to be interested in my cat, so I watch him slightly to make sure he doesn't hurt him. I don't mind him looking and playing peekaboo though. Entitled mother.
Excuse me. Hi, my name's Karen.
Me. Oh, hi Karen. How's it going? Entitled mother looks shocked.
First of all, I'd appreciate if you call me ma'am or Miss Karen. Learn some manners.
Me. Okay. Did you need something, Karen? Entitled mother sighs.
I asked you once to just... Anyways, that's not important right now. I need you to get up.
Surprised that she dropped the ma'am thing. Maybe she really does need my help with something. Me. Is everything okay? Did I get rolled onto some of your stuff? I can move the chair so you can look if you need. Entitled mother.
No. I don't need you to move the chair. I need you out of the chair.
Me. May I ask why? Entitled mother, getting peeved off.
Well, aside from the fact that an adult is asking you for something and you should do it, if you must know, my son is tired and needs a place to sit.
Excuse me? I'm not a child. I'm 25. I don't have to call her ma'am, and I certainly don't have to do what she says just because she's an adult. Obviously, I don't say that to her. I'm still respectful. Me with nervous laughter. Big mistake there. Oh, I'm sorry, but I think I'm just gonna stay in the chair. Entitled mother.
You're laughing at my child's pain? What kind of trash are you?
Me. No, sorry. You just caught me off guard. I thought you needed my help with something. Entitled mother.
I do. I need you to get up so my baby can sit.
Me. As I said, I'll be staying in my chair. Maybe there's some seats in between the gates where you and your son could sit and wait. Entitled mother.
But he's tired. It's too far to find empty seats. There's only some at the food court.
Me. And I'm injured. It would also be too far for me to walk to the food court area, only to walk back 15 minutes later. Entitled mother.
We saw you standing in security. You can stand here.
She hits the wall next to me for emphasis.
You have somewhere to lean, so give us the chair.
Me. No, please leave me alone. I will stay right here till it is time for me to go inside. Entitled mother.
Really? You won't help a poor child? You're heartless.
Me. Sure, if you say so. Put my headphones back on because this conversation is over. I'm done. She huffs and grabs her kid and walks away. The end. Just kidding. Not 2 minutes later, as I'm minding my own business, engrossed in my phone and ignoring the outside world, I feel this tug on my boot and then enormous pain going through my foot. What the F? This kid is trying to climb on top of me. He used my boot as a little step stool almost and tried to hop onto my lap. Obviously, the second time I felt him on me, I pushed him off out of instinct. I'm not a jungle gem. I pull out my headphones and the kid is on the ground crying in full tantrum mode. Entitled mother comes running, screaming, how could I attack her child? The flight attendant also saw the commotion and comes over to see what's wrong. Before I can say anything, entitled mother is sobbing to her. Entitled mother.
She hurt my baby. She attacked him. I want her off this flight. Oh, baby, are you okay?
Talking to her kid. Kid. Mommy, she didn't let me sit. You told me she would let me sit on her lap. Tell her to let me sit. Mommy. Starts making incoherent sheep noises. Entitled mother.
See what you did? Just give us this seat.
As of right now, I'm still in my chair, kid is on the ground, entitled mother is practically trying to shove me out of the chair. I'm in a fair amount of pain and now extremely peeved that this woman is making a scene. Flight attendant, ma'am, what exactly are you trying to do here? Entitled mother,
I just need this chair. Look, tell her she'll be allowed to go on the plane again if she just gives me this chair.
Flight attendant, ma'am, she's done nothing wrong. Please leave her alone. She's an injured traveler. The chair is for her. Entitled mother.
The chair's for people who need it, and right now my son needs it. She's been rude and has attacked my son. If she won't give me her chair, I want her removed from the flight. Right now.
Flight attendant, ma'am, you are harassing other passengers. That is not allowed. Now, I will give you one chance to calm down, apologize to this young lady, and hope that she doesn't wish to press charges. Entitled mother.
Charges for what? Being a B-word? How is she even allowed on the plane with that thing? That's illegal. It's probably feral and will attack everyone during the flight.
Me, fed up and now peeved that she's talking smack about my cat. Lady, I've asked you multiple times to leave me alone. My cat has a ticket. He's allowed to be here and travel with me. And it seems like he's a lot better trained and well behaved than your little hellion of a child. Though I'm not surprised he's turning out this way when his mother's behaving like a child herself. Get out of my face before I take the lady's advice and press charges. Flight attendant. Ma'am, she's allowed to have a cat. She is paid for a ticket for her animal. It is perfectly legal and within airline rules. Your behavior, however, is not. This is my last warning to you. Please leave this passenger alone. The entitled mother is red in the face. She pulls her kid up and starts walking away, and they stand up about 5 feet from me, glaring at me. I'm now weary and keeping my eye on them. She whispers something to him, and before I know it, he's running at me full speed and basically aiming for my cat carrier. I don't know what he planned to do, but my mama cat instincts kicked in and I stuck my leg out just in time. The kid jumped and basically fell onto my boot, effectively blocking him from landing on my cat. while also gleaning a scream from me because, yeah, that hurt. The flight attendant has had enough. She calls for security and then comes to check on me, as I'm now crying along with the spawn of Satan. He ran to his mommy and the entitled mother is now holding him and she looks ready to tear into me. Entitled mother:
Why would you hurt my child like that, you witch?
Me: why would you send your kid to attack me or my cat? This is the second time he's gotten hurt doing stupid things you told him to do. Entitled mother:
I would never.
Kid: but mom, you did say to sit on the kitty's box and squish him as hard as I can. Entitled mother to her kid:
Shut up, that's not what I said.
Security arrives and the flight attendant tells them that they need to remove a passenger. Entitled mother, for some reason, thinks she's still in the right and steps aside, telling the guys,
She's right here, take her away. She hurt my kid.
The flight attendant and I share a gobsmacked look before she turns to entitled mother. Flight attendant: Ma'am, you and your child will not be allowed to fly with us today. Security will escort you out and your bags will be retrieved when possible. Please gather your things and follow these gentlemen. Entitled mother looks like someone slapped her with a fish.
What do you mean? She's the one who's being rude. You need to kick her off this flight. I'm fine. I haven't done anything wrong. My son and I will be getting on this plane as he has to be back for summer camp, and we can't afford to find a new flight, so we will be staying.
Flight attendant: You will not be allowed on this flight. Not today, not ever. Please leave calmly with these men or they will drag you out. She tries to protest some more, but eventually takes her hellspawn and leaves with security, cussing me out and telling me Jesus has a special place for people like me. And finally, I get to fly in peace. I had to go to the doctors the next day and my ankle definitely didn't take those hits well. I'll be in the boot longer than anticipated. The airline called me to get my statement and offered me vouchers as compensation for my troubles and informed me that the passenger has been barred from traveling with their airline in the future. I think they're just happy I'm not pressing charges. My fur baby and I are home and cuddled in bed, and I hope that witch had to spend so much extra money to get her kid home on time. So you tell me, am I the jerk? Wow, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like this one was over 3 times and it just kept going. Did this mother actually send her child to attack a person in a wheelchair and their cat? If the poster's telling the story accurately, that's certainly what it sounds like. This mother has clearly instilled some horrible behavior in her kid. And I do like that the poster actually calls her out on it too. But whether your kid's tired or not, you don't bug the person in the wheelchair. Surely there was a ton of other people just sitting in normal chairs that you could have asked for a seat, or just let the kid sit on the floor. They're a kid. They don't care. I feel like what really sucks about this story more than anything is that these people actually ended up further physically injuring the person in the wheelchair. In a lot of cases, it ends with a bad interaction that you think about when you get home and maybe it bugs you for a few days. But this one ended up actually causing physical pain and extending an injury. Surely even a child knows that this is wrong. Of course, we did establish this was a hellspawn. My aunt became a confirmed Karen when she decided to sue the Jellyfish Museum. Am I the jerk for telling my aunt to stop being a Karen after she wanted to sue the Jellyfish Museum after getting stung by a jellyfish? My mom and I went on vacation and we visited the Jellyfish Museum, which was a massive aquarium dedicated to jellyfish. They must have had every species of jellyfish. It was massive, and it was so cool as they're all so colorful. A few of the jellyfish tanks for some reason didn't have a protective lid on top and it was possible to stick your hand in there. That's a dumb idea for obvious reasons, and it had a label in Ukrainian and English telling you not to touch it. The translation wasn't great, something like "to put hands in the water is forbidden," but you get the point. Well, my aunt decided to touch them. She explained that she's touched many jellyfish and she knows that this species is safe as she's seen them on the beach. I told her that's not a good idea, but she told me to be quiet. She stuck her hand into the tank, and it hurt a lot. She started screaming and yelling at some old Ukrainians who were laughing at her. An employee came over and he barely spoke English, but he said she was stupid for touching the jellyfish. She asked for a manager and how she's going to sue, blah, blah, blah. I was fed up and I just told her to shut up. And my mom told me I needed to respect authority. I said no, my aunt was stupid and we should leave the employees alone. We went over to a clinic and she was fine. She wants to sue them and I told her to stop and it's her fault. Most of my family agrees, however, my mom is on her side. So am I the jerk? No. Not at all. Stupid people need to be told they're stupid sometimes or they will continue to do stupid things. This is a perfect example of Darwinism. She's acting like a child. Without someone there to correct her, she's just gonna walk into traffic or something apparently. This is just a matter of having a head on your shoulders. But to turn around and start harassing the employees and threatening to sue, it's just the ultimate Karen move. Karen thinks I'm useless as an employee since I'm disabled. Except I don't work here. For context, I use a walking stick for mobility. I'm 29 and I look a bit younger, so I do encounter random and rude folk armed with misconceptions about disability. Anyway, I was in a large supermarket on my own. I was browsing some condiment jars when a woman comes up to me. This woman was a good bit older than me, dressed in a business suit, and had the look of someone who thought their crap didn't stink. She asked me where the bread was. I was taken off guard, so I had to pause to think as I was about to respond. Her. God, how do you not know where it is? You work here. Are you new? The employees wore black trousers and green polo shirts. I was wearing a black maxi skirt and baggy pink t-shirt. Me. I don't work here, but I think the bread is down towards the bakery. Her. Are you going to take me there or do I have to get the manager? Me. Look, I don't work here. I'm trying to do my shopping. Head to the bakery and I'm sure the bread will be there. I turn to leave and she clocks my walking stick. She obstructs my path away, knowing I'm not very able to dodge her. Her. Why do they let cripples like you work here anyway? You're useless. Me. For the last time, I don't work here. I'm just doing my shopping. Now leave me alone or I'll get an employee. At this point, an employee springs into action and tells the woman that I don't work here but he can help. She walks off, tutting something about useless millennials. The employee told me he'd seen her hassling me and asked if I was alright. I said I'd be fine but thanked him for bailing me out of the situation. He likely doesn't get paid enough for dealing with this nonsense. So tell me, am I the jerk? And here we have another entitled person that doesn't understand what a disability is. Little bit of personal insight here. I'm 32 and I had to walk with a cane for a couple of months. And there would be times where I was on the bus asking someone to move so I could sit and they would raise their eyebrow at me. Maybe wondering whether or not I was really in need of the cane or I just wanted a seat. I don't know. So sadly, yes, these people do exist. But I can't say I really understand their way of thinking. I feel like you have to be in a pretty low place to fake a disability. But I feel like to automatically assume that someone is faking is really just as bad. Not to mention the fact that she was told multiple times they don't work there. Whatever your issue may be, they're just a stranger shopping, same as you. Leave them alone. Overly religious landlord has forgotten how to love thy neighbor. I wasn't really sure where to put this, but I felt like I wanted to put it in writing, now that the whole thing is over. I had a small bakery and rented a space in a boutique shopping center that offered businesses all run by women. The landlord was super religious and so were most of the other business owners. I live in the South, so it is expected. I'm an atheist. Being in the South, I kept it very quiet and never said anything about it to her, but had no issue with her and her religion. I had a great relationship with everyone at the shopping center, including my landlord, until about 10 months into my 1-year lease, when a woman who wanted my space found out about my atheism and outed me to the landlord. Cue a sharp decrease in the amount of business from other vendors. Sudden, loud religious music being played in the common areas of the center, which I could hear through my windows and closed door. Then a 25% rent hike to only me after being told that rent would not increase. And finally, when I still didn't leave and instead renewed my lease, a flat-out termination of my lease with no stated reason. The renewal never happened, according to her. In between the rent hike and the lease termination, she apologized to me for treating me badly, stating Jesus wouldn't want people to treat her that way. She said that finding out I was an atheist when she believed me to be a Christian had just really thrown her and she didn't know how to treat me. Everything culminated when she changed the locks on my business door 2 weeks before my lease term was up. I got my keys back, shut down my business, and slowly began to move things out, even though she demanded that I move out immediately. I had put several $1,000s into redecorating the space and getting proper electrical lines run so that I could operate. Over the year, I had blown all of my savings on that business. At the end of my time, I cleaned the space, moved out all of my stuff, and left it in better condition than when I moved in. I took lots of pictures at the beginning and end of the lease and documented everything in writing. The person who outed me also had a bakery and promptly moved into my space and changed nothing in the decor. I calmly waited 60 days for a return of my $400 security deposit. I've also been a paralegal for 15 years and took a year-long hiatus to try to run this business. On the 61st day, I had an attorney in my firm write a letter to the landlord demanding the statutory amounts owed to me, $1,400. What I got in return was a call from her lawyer to mine telling me to back off, and that if I attempted to get my security deposit back, they would call my boss and get me fired. And they would sue me for defamation for a comment I had made on my personal Facebook saying that I thought my lease was terminated because I was an atheist. So I waited the required time frame and filed suit for the $1,400 plus attorney fees. They promptly countersued me for defamation, fraud, and a whole racket of other things, and wanted $10,000 at a minimum. They claimed that I had caused significant damage to the property and that I had stolen items that belonged to the landlord. I quietly wait for them to prosecute the case. They do nothing. After about 5 months, they offer me $400 to settle. I tell them to screw off. Several more months pass. No discovery, no hearings, nothing. After a year, I filed a no evidence motion for summary judgment asking that all of their claims be dismissed. They didn't respond. Judge granted my motion. Then I filed a motion for summary judgment for $5,000 in attorney fees plus the $1,400 in statutory damages. I attached pictures, emails, text messages, and all sorts of other proof that every one of their claims relating to why they didn't refund the deposit were complete fabrications. Their attorney called wanting to settle for $1,000. We told them no way. We wanted all $6,400. They didn't respond to my second motion for summary judgment. Hearing was scheduled for last Friday. On Wednesday, we get a settlement offer of $4,500. My attorney counters with $54,000. They accept. After 18 months, I got my cashier's check for $5,400 today. I know she treated me like crap and booted me out because I didn't hold the same religious beliefs that she had assumed I did. Then she felt like she could get away with stiffing me the $400 deposit. Because of her jerkery, she paid an additional $5,000. And the last, most beautiful part, my lawyer was free because I did all of my own paperwork and he just signed off on it and talked to the other lawyer a couple times. Her lawyer, definitely not free. I'm glad it's over. And maybe, just maybe, she'll be a slightly better landlord in the future. What a jerk, right? Well, you said it. I really hope she learned her lesson. That is not any way to do business. You're asking for a lawsuit. Religion should never be a factor in anything like this. At the end of the day, if she keeps the place clean, there's no issues, and she pays her rent, what she does on her own time is none of your business. But what can I say? At the end of the day, it's just a jerk who decides to be offended by someone else's choices. It does suck that the poster wasn't able to get their business up and going, but I hope that they were able to relocate and get something started. In the meantime, as they said, this case is over. They don't need to worry about it anymore. You got them good. Just move forward from here. Moron won't stop speeding, so I threw a fake baby in the road to teach him a lesson. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. This story's my uncle's, but it's a good one, so I thought I'd share it with you. This was about 20 years ago, give or take. My uncle lived in a residential neighborhood with many kids. The speed limit was 25 miles per hour on his road. His daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, Coco let's call her, lived across the street. The granddaughter was around 4 at the time, and would randomly wander across the street to see her grandpa and go to his house. Yes, my cousin was not a good mom. The first of many signs being that she let her pre-K aged daughter just walk off on her own. Lucky, Coco was a good kid and only went straight to my uncle's house, or this could be an awful missing child story. Sadly, some people think it's okay to speed in residential neighborhoods, even where there might be children playing. This one crazy speeder in a new decked out Camaro came flying through the neighborhood every day around 50 to 60 miles per hour. Drove my uncle crazy. Screaming at him to slow down didn't deter him. Children at play signs didn't deter him. Calling the cops did nothing. Cars parked curbside on this street and kids lived all around here. Anything could happen. A kid could dart out between parked cars into the street chasing a ball that got away. Someone could get hurt very easily. Even worse, well, worse in my family at least, Coco could be walking over to see my uncle, and this guy at this speed wouldn't be able to stop in time. So my uncle thought about it for a while on how to get this guy to slow down. My uncle is normally an act now, think about it later type. So I'm impressed he plotted something rather than just throwing a hammer and breaking out the windshield. But my uncle wanted to make sure this guy really got the message, that he didn't need to be anywhere so fast that he endangered lives. Endangering lives. Yeah, that's the idea. You see, Uncle had an old covered baby carriage from when Coco was an infant. She used it to play with her dolls. This Camaro guy had a pretty predictable schedule. So my uncle took the carriage with a doll in it outside and hid in front of his car, parked at the curb where he knew Camaro guy couldn't see him. According to schedule, Camaro guy would be coming the opposite direction, so he would be seeing the rear of my uncle's car from his vantage. My uncle was in front. Uncle heard the Camaro coming, waited a moment as he neared, and pushed the carriage into the road. For added dramatic effect, my cousin was nearby and screamed, "The baby, catch the carriage!" Camaro guy had no time to react and plowed into the carriage, sending the doll flying. Uncle and cousin ran for the doll like it was a baby, freaking out, and looked at the driver. The jerk didn't stop, but you could tell he was freaked. Uncle said he turned pale and turned at the nearest corner one house down and off his normal route to get out of there. Well, reason stands that the guy must have figured out he didn't kill a baby in a hit and run because that would be in the news. But we never know for sure. What we do know is that that guy never came through the neighborhood again at any speed, and he was spotted a number of times at local public bus stops, waiting for the bus. I was in that area about 5 years ago with my uncle, and he pointed out someone on the bus bench waiting and started laughing, telling me it was the Camaro guy waiting for a bus again. As I said before, this happened around 20 years ago, and we saw him 5 years ago. I guess that scared him out of driving for life. I think he got the message. So, was my uncle the jerk? Well, you know what they say, desperate times call for desperate measures. That being said, I'm pretty sure you've scarred this guy for life by the sound of it. It is kind of unfortunate that it had to come to that for him to learn his lesson, but he was putting people's lives in danger. Young children at that. This does feel like an elaborate plan they came up with though. I can't say this would have been my first thought. My anti-vax mom threatened to not pay for my college if I got a flu shot. So to preface, I, a 17-year-old female, am an incoming freshman in college. I'm going to a UC, won't say which for obvious reasons, but I got into the school's semi-competitive engineering program, and it was one of my top choices for college. I absolutely loved the school. Unfortunately, the UC system just instituted a new rule that all students need to get a flu shot before they can attend. My mom, 50-year-old female, has been incredibly upset about this for the past 2 days. She called me up about an hour ago to talk about how I wanted to deal with the problem of having to get a flu shot. She was asking me to reconsider going to another college halfway across the country because they don't require flu shots. The school is not nearly as good in terms of engineering, it's a long way away, and it's very expensive for out-of-state students. I have zero desire to go there. I told her this wasn't the hill I wanted to die on. I don't think getting a flu shot is really that big of a deal, and I certainly don't want it to be the reason I end up not going to my top choice college. She got kind of angry with me and basically implied that she wouldn't pay for me to attend college if I got the shot. I would be completely on my own. Then she said, "Why don't you march your protester self?" I organized a Black Lives Matter march in our city back in June, so she's referencing that. "Down to City Hall. I'm sure you can find people who will protest with you." And I responded, "I'm not sure I want to associate with those people," which I know was super mean and sounds awful to me in hindsight, but she started crying and hung up on me after I said that. My mom and I seem to be at odds about everything now. She was upset with me for organizing the Black Lives Matter march. She doesn't like most of my political views, and she's even threatened to burn a book I was reading by Richard Dawkins about evolution because he advocated cannibalism. What? And she seems to vaguely think evolution is a lie, despite not being religious so far as I can tell. I also had to get a series of vaccinations in 9th grade to attend my high school, which my dad took me to get and which my mom is still extremely upset about almost 4 years later. I feel like this whole disaster is going to be the final straw though. I just really need some advice on how to deal with this before she comes home from work and gets super mad and starts yelling at me. Edit. Okay, I just want to add, because people keep suggesting this, I can't exactly go behind her back here and get the shot on my own. Like, physically, yes, I can walk to Walgreens and get it, but being allowed to go to college equals got the flu shot. She'll know, and therein lies the problem. Also, I know my mom sounds kind of bad on paper or on Reddit, but she really is a loving and caring person who's attempting to look out for me in her own way. So please stop with the name calling. I came here asking for help, not asking for you to crap on my mom. It's just not helpful or productive. But now let me ask, am I the jerk? That's an easy no from me. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of misinformation spread around the internet that leads anti-vaxxers to believe there are issues with vaccines and flu shots and things like that. But regardless of what you choose to believe, this is the school your daughter wants to go to. All it will take is a flu shot. One shot. She has no problem with it. Most people don't have a problem with it. All you need to do is accept it this one time. And then your daughter can continue to go on and be happy and do what she wants to do for the rest of her life. I really do feel like that's a win-win. The amount of cons that come along with the mother's alternative just don't make it worth it, especially for the daughter. After I do 60% of the group project, they try to oust me? No. This happened about 12 years ago while I was studying aeronautical engineering. Due to some money-grubbing legislation tactics, most who have gone to college know about the unnecessary courses that are tacked on to degrees in order to graduate. One of those courses for my degree was a business class. Seriously, you'd think these guys would understand that most engineers don't do the business side of things. Thankfully, we had a teacher who was understanding of the fact that many of us were bored out of our minds in class. I'll admit to always having been a geek/nerd who loved to make good grades. If I don't understand something, I run at it hard to try and change that. This class stumped me for quite some time, and then a nightmare of a project was announced, one worth 50% of our grades. The school was a small one, the class a little more than 30 people, and I was assigned to work with 3 people I knew from other classes. We had problems straight away. 2 of the people remembered me from a calculus class that they had barely passed as the person who sailed easily through, and decided to dump their portion of the work on me straight away, knowing I wouldn't allow myself to fail. They were right. At first, my other group member tried to pick up the slack as well, pulling hard to do a difficult project in a subject we barely understood. I'll admit, she was a trooper. Unfortunately, she was also someone easily manipulated, and our 2 slacking group members began applying pressure during the semester for her to take the work and allow them to present it. The day of the project finally comes in, and I'm sick as a dog, pretty much quarantined in the clinic due to bronchitis. I managed to send a message to the teacher. The 2 slackers managed to wrangle the presentation from the girl who worked with me and presented it to the class, declaring that they had done all of the work and I was skipping class because they had told me that they were going to tell the teacher what happened. My initial grade was an F. I was beyond peeved until I realized something important. Part of the project involved a written report, of which I held the only copy since I was the one to type it up. Cue the revenge. Privately, I went to the teacher with my notes in the report in order to get the grade I earned, and to get him in on the plot. He agreed since it seemed fun and he planned to fail them anyway for academic dishonesty. Publicly, there was no report. The classmates that had attempted to take all the credit began to approach me, first demanding the report. Most of the time, my response was, "But I didn't do any work," in a sickly sweet voice. Next, they attempted to act all buddy-buddy, trying to convince me that it had all been a joke and promising that they'd tell the professor that I had done some work, giving me some credit so that I had the possibility to pass. This was met with stony silence on most occasions before I told them I'd rather fail than let them pass. Things escalated after that to include the door of my dorm room being rapped on at odd hours of the night, shoving, and them stealing my backpack and notebooks in order to try and find the report themselves. One of them even asked my roommate to let them search for a report I had written and forgotten for our group. Didn't have her as my roommate the following semester. Things finally came to a head on the last week of classes. I had held out on them for a month, not telling any of my group mates what I had done, and enough time had elapsed that even if they were to turn in the report now, it would be so late that they'd still have failed. They hadn't even attempted to do the report themselves, and the girl who had been working with me was in hysterics over the very real possibility of failing the class. It was what the teacher and I had been waiting for, and he finally decided to return the reports. The 2 slackers glared daggers at me as the teacher returned the report of every other group in the class before stomping in front of them. He was holding what looked to be one extra report, and they were immediately looking hopeful. He set a single sheet of paper on one of their desks before moving to the desk of the girl who had worked alongside me and set the report on her desk. I had to dock some points for dishonesty, but you and your partner did decently, he stated before moving on. My partner realized what I had done. We only got an 82 on our project, but it was far better than the 0 that our ex-groupmates received. I had been carefully documenting the harassment that the two slackers had put me through and ensured several witnesses saw some of what they did. 2 days after being informed that they were failing, the pair had a new problem. I gave the evidence to the administration of our school and the teacher reported the academic dishonesty. The administration did a bit of digging and found that the pair had been making trouble for some time, and a number of students reported similar problems of having their work stolen. The slackers were expelled. So, am I the jerk? You, my friend, are a legend. This is almost too good. I feel like this is a perfect example of the exact level of justice for the exact crime, which doesn't come along very often, I feel. A lot of the time, people tend to go overboard the other way or didn't give it the attention it really deserved. This one, I feel we nailed it. Didn't want to do any of the work on the report? Fail the class. Choose to bully and extort and blackmail and break into people's rooms and try and steal stuff? Get expelled. It just works. I love the original poster for coming up with this whole scheme and great on the teacher for joining in. Couldn't have done it without you. Karen wasn't exactly happy about the kind of help I was offering her. So, happened about a week ago. I had a meeting at work and was recently promoted, so I decided to wear a collared company shirt I bought a couple years back with slacks and a nice set of professional shoes. My wife had given me a honey pickup list, so after the meeting I stopped by America's favorite 2-in-every-town store, Fall Dart. Now, it was a small list, 3 easily carried items, so I didn't even grab a card or anything. As I'm moving through an aisle to grab the first thing, a sweet little old lady asks for my help reaching something on a top shelf. No problem, she asked nicely. I'm tall and I don't actually mind helping. My wife will actually see people having issues and volunteer me from time to time. It's all cool. As I hand it to her and she smiles thanking me, I get tapped on the shoulder. One of those bony nun finger type of taps. Hey, come with me. You need to take care of your employee. Now, I instantly realized I must look like a manager and a Karen found me. Still, I'm sorry ma'am, I don't work here. I don't care if you're corporate or local. Follow me. Screw it. This could be fun. So I followed her and a couple of miles away is a lady tasked to do shopping for those online orders with 4 partially filled totes. I can't find my stuff and she won't show me where it is. You need to reprimand this employee. Poor employee tried to keep smiling despite looking so tired and fed up with life in general. Ma'am, I'm sure she's just following the directions of her boss, but I don't work here. It does seem that you need some help though. Do you need my help? As I said that, I pulled down and straightened the chest of my shirt in case of wrinkles and pointed to the slogan under the company crest. Helping individuals with disabilities and living independent and fulfilling lives. I really do love helping people and work for a company that works with people with mental and physical disabilities. She glanced down, got a confused look on her face, and looked back up at me, which I'd been waiting for. Extending one hand towards her, ma'am, do you have staff or family here with you? Are you in need of assistance? She got red and started making a squeaky choking noise. She then started looking really peeved but unsure of what to say. She finally clenched her jaw and just stormed off. I turned, showing my shirt to the actual employee, and wished her a good day as she tried not to laugh. Sadly, I didn't see or hear anything else from the lady the rest of my visit. This is actually brilliant. Talk about right place, right time. Way to make use of the props you have available. But honestly, the fact that he was just willing to go along with it and see what happens is kind of my favorite part. That's how you end up with a great story. Like this one. Me? I would have done everything in my power to avoid that Karen as soon as I had identified exactly what she was. My wife doesn't seem to understand you have to give respect to get respect. For context, our kid has been mouthing off to her mother lately, which I've corrected her on every occurrence. Working long days, I'm not around a lot of the time to witness things said and done. My wife does have a tendency of dramatizing everything, and I've become the referee between the two, it seems. The two often have very different stories of what happened. A few days ago, I was at work. Our daughter stayed home from school because she's sick. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, but is also a hobbyist writer. She had a write her friend over. She hadn't been to our new home yet, which isn't really new, we moved in 5 years ago. But anyways, my kid was upstairs in her bed. She said she had just fallen asleep when her mom and the friend walked in unannounced and turned on all the lights. My wife was giving her friend a tour of the house. That is one thing I cannot stand. My wife feels the need to show everyone every single room, closet, even the inside of the fridge. Upstairs is the bedrooms and her office. There's really no need for visitors to go up there, unless it's her office. My kid was embarrassed. She knows the friend, but not that well. Plus, this lady is very critical when it comes to children. She thinks they're all lazy. If it was my wife's mother, for example, that would have been a completely different story, and our kid wouldn't have been bothered. A few hours later, the friend left and my wife and daughter went at it. She told her mom she doesn't want people in her room, and especially when she's in it. My wife bickered that it's her house, not our child, so that she doesn't have a say. I 100% sided with my child on this one. I asked my wife, what if our kid was changing her clothes and you just walk in with your friend completely unannounced? She had specifically asked previously not to bring people into her room, yet my wife continues doing it. My wife again threw around, it's our house, I don't need to knock to open the door. My argument was, it's her room. Her privacy is just as important as our privacy, even though she's a child. My wife said this is a perfect example of why our child has no respect for her, because I always side with her. So I said, you have to give respect to get respect. She believes I'm giving the girl a complex and teaching her to have no respect for authority. I think she's teaching our kid that her privacy, feelings, and requests don't matter. Am I the jerk? No, absolutely not. As you said, you 100% sided with your child on this one, and you 100% made the right decision. That level of respect and privacy needs to be established. I understand it seems like not so long ago she was a baby or a 2-year-old and maybe this kind of thing wasn't as big of a deal. But she is her own person now, and that's something that mom really needs to learn to respect. Because if she doesn't, then yes, she is going to lose the respect of her daughter. And I don't think anyone in this situation wants that. Not mom, not dad, and not the daughter. Everyone wants to have a good relationship with their mom initially. It's when things start to go south that it's hard to recover from. Don't start that slope now. Sorry, roommates, I'm not obligated to feed all of you as well. For some background, I live in a house with 4 other people. 3 of us have been here from the beginning, house is in my name, and the other 2 have since invited their girlfriends to live with us. Until recently, there's never been a problem with me buying and cooking my own food and not sharing anything. However, it started in October. I went to Walmart, spent nearly $400 on groceries for myself, and decided to cook myself dinner. As I'm sitting down in my room eating my sausages, one of their girlfriends, we'll call her girlfriend 1, opens my door without knocking and comes into my room and asks, "Did you seriously only cook for yourself?" This threw me off and I thought that maybe she was partially joking. However, when I laughed a bit, she started going off about, "It's no wonder you can't get past the first date," and how crappy of a roommate I am and that I don't offer food for everyone else. I didn't even attempt to argue. Instead, I elected to just smile and wave until she left my room without closing my door. Again, sometime in November, all 4 roommates had friends over and were playing Cards Against Humanity as a group. I was not playing, I instead was hanging out in my room alone. Around 2 a.m. I got hungry and decided it was time for some food. I ordered some halal food, and when I say some, I mean 3 meals and some sides. Fast forward to 3:30 a.m. and I'm getting my food, walk back into the house, and everyone has this look in their eyes like I just saved the day. And girlfriend 1 and girlfriend 2 both gasp and smile until I walk past the living room and go straight to my room. As I'm closing the door, I hear girlfriend 1 getting worked up, calling me names and telling the guest, "He always does this, he's the worst roommate," followed by laughter of everyone in the room. Mind you, nearly a year ago, I bought my own trash can for my room, continue to buy paper plates, and use the same few cups that are kept in my room. I did/do this because dishes pile up in this house in a matter of days and will sit in the sink for months. And because I was sick of being told that I contributed to the mess, knowing full well I didn't because I clean my dishes after I cook or use them. Girlfriend 2 goes on to tell everyone that I buy my own dishes, toilet paper, garbage bags, etc., and even have a mini fridge in my room because I'm just greedy and hoard my food. This reasonably upset me, and I lost my self-control and proceeded to berate her and girlfriend 1 for their lack of self-awareness, to which roommate 1 would react by telling me I would go back in my room if I knew what was good for me. I went back into my room and thought maybe that was the end of it all. Am I the jerk for giving them all 60 days to get out? That's a little harsh, I feel. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to the situation, and this is only a couple of small examples, right? But I totally get where you're coming from. But also, this is just a minor lack of respect more than anything. It's not as if they're going and taking your food and eating it and things like that. They're just being a little salty because you didn't get anything for them too. And that's just being a little entitled. They need to understand that you're not obligated to buy them food. I don't know how often they get something for you when they order food, but if that is something that's happening and you never return the favor, it does kind of start to feel like it's not an even relationship. At the same time, they're not obligated to get you anything. They chose to, and if you choose not to reciprocate, then that's up to you. They would just proceed to not get you anything in the future if they were really feeling like it was an issue. But I do feel like this whole thing has kind of escalated beyond what it should have been. I hope they're able to find some kind of peaceful resolution to this whole thing. It really sounds like you just like to keep to yourself and do your own thing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Them thinking that's a bad roommate is the real opposite way of thinking. The bad roommate is the one who makes a bunch of noise at 3:30 in the morning, coming home drunk or whatever, breaking things all the time, things like that. Quietly sitting in your room and ordering food for yourself, I see no issue with that. You're not even making dishes or anything like that. You're trying to have as little impact on them as possible. Just leave you alone. Karen tries to get me arrested for throwing away my own property. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. First, a little backstory. I recently moved across the country, back to warmer climates. It was very expensive to move furniture 2,000 miles, so a lot of stuff is cheaper to buy new. As I was separating my personal and sentimental belongings from what I was going to replace, I had a brilliant idea. I decided to offer the stuff I wasn't taking with me for free online, as most of the items were in good condition. I'd rather my old furniture and assorted items go to charities and people who could use them instead of a landfill. My only condition was that the person taking something had to pick it up and transport any item themselves. The first item I posted was my pull-up tower with VKR. It had some minor wear and tear, but it was still in overall great condition. It was then that I encountered the dreaded entitled mother. Thankfully, I only posted a newly created email account along with my town as my contact info to limit my exposure to potential threats. In this case, an irate Karen. No name, no address, just the town so people could assess travel for pickup. For our cast, we have me, entitled mother, completely detached from reality, and innocent kid, college student. Soon after posting that my pull-up tower was available for free, I was contacted by Innocent Kid. After an email correspondence, I suggested we talk on the phone and gave him my cell number. He called to discuss getting the tower. Innocent Kid. Hi, I emailed you about the pull-up tower. I just started college at the state university in your town, and some friends and I are renting a house near campus. I think we could really use the equipment to save money by having it instead of a gym membership. Me. College is expensive, so I completely understand. Smart move on looking for ways to save money. I'd be happy to let you have it. You'll need to partially disassemble and reassemble it to get it through doorways. Nothing crazy, just a couple of screws and bolts. It's surprisingly lightweight at 75 pounds and easy to move, although I do recommend a van or something large for transport. When do you think you can come pick it up? Innocent Kid. Oh, probably next month. Me. Sorry, I'm moving in a couple of weeks, so I need it gone before then. If you can come sooner, it's yours, otherwise I'll have to give it to the next person. Innocent Kid. Let me call my mom to borrow her car this weekend. It's a big SUV and I should be able to swing by in a day or two. Me. Great. That's when everything started to go horribly wrong. It was clear from what transpired next that whoever coined the phrase, "no good deed goes unpunished," had clearly met this entitled mother. I get a phone call from Innocent Kid's phone, so I answer. Me. Hello? Entitled mother. You can deliver my son's tower on Saturday at 10 a.m. Me. What? Who are you? Entitled mother. I'm the customer. Are you stupid or something? I want you to deliver his workout equipment on Saturday. That's when I can be at the house to let you in. I'm very busy, you know. Me. I'm not a store lady and I don't do deliveries. Entitled mother. What? How dare you? I'm a paying customer. Me. No, you aren't. The tower's free. I'm moving and giving it away. Entitled mother. That's no excuse for treating a customer like this. I want to speak to your manager. I can have you fired over this. As she continued to scream nonsense at me, the image of the stereotypical Karen haircut popped into my mind. I don't know whether she had one, but I'm guessing she did. I could practically see the haircut in my mind while she ranted. Her son seemed so nice and polite, so I'm wondering if he was adopted or there was a mix-up at the hospital. Then her next comment snaps me back to attention. Entitled mother. If you don't deliver on Saturday, I'll take my business elsewhere. Me. Fine by me. Click. Later on, innocent kid emailed me to apologize for his mother. Like I said, he was nice, so I'm guessing maybe he takes after his father. He said he still wanted the tower and I told him he could have it. He called me to get my address and directions, and that's when entitled mother reappeared. Innocent kid. So what time works for you? Me. I have some meetings earlier in the day, but I can meet you after 5 p.m. I'm in the northern part of town and will text you the address when I get home. Entitled mother.
Oh, it's you again. I hope you've learned how to respect your customers.
She must have snatched the phone from innocent kid's hand because I could hear him protesting in the background. Me. Again, you are not a customer. It's free. Entitled mother.
Well, that's no way to run a business, but I expect nothing less from an idiot.
Me. Whatever. Can you put innocent kid back on? Entitled mother.
Not until we get some things straightened out.
Me. Like what? Entitled mother.
If my son is going to pick up and assemble this himself, you need to compensate him. That's the polite thing to do. $500 sounds fair.
Me. First, I'm not paying you to give your son something for free. Second, the item didn't even cost half of that when it was new. So no and no. Entitled mother.
But my son is a smart college student with a bright future. His time is very valuable.
Me. So is mine. Entitled mother.
Not as much as my son's. So $500 should be fine. Besides, as a college student, he could use the money. Why are you being so selfish?
Me. How is a free pull-up tower being selfish? Entitled mother.
Also, what is the warranty on the product in case it breaks?
Me. No money, no warranty. It's free and as is. Entitled mother.
I need your company and warranty info in case it breaks and my son hurts himself so I know who to sue. Lazy people,
not the word she used,
like you, don't make quality products.
Me. I'm not a company. I don't work for the manufacturer. I didn't make it. I'm just moving and giving it away. Entitled mother.
What? Why are you trying to give my son gifts then? Are you some pedophile trying to seduce my son? I should call the cops on you right now, and I'll tell them about the money you still owe me. I can have you arrested.
Me. I don't have time to deal with a lunatic off her meds. Forget it. I'll just throw it out. Entitled mother.
How dare you?
Click. I ignored the rest of her calls, texts, and nasty voicemails that came throughout the day. Threats of suing me, demanding a refund, and claims that I was after her baby continued. Just bizarre. So glad I didn't post my address or name on the ad. I threw out the pull-up tower and considered the matter over, and I was wrong. Sunday morning rolls around and my phone rings. It's early and I was still sleeping, so I didn't check my caller ID before answering. Me.
Hello?
Entitled mother.
Where were you yesterday? I waited at the house all day for you to show up and deliver the tower. This is unacceptable. I'll have you fired over this.
Me. What? Leave me alone, crazy lady. Entitled mother.
I'll accept your apology if you deliver it today. And you need to give me a full refund for the cost of the item. Being this late, I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Me. You didn't pay anything. It was mine and I threw the tower away. Entitled mother.
What? I'm calling the cops on you. How dare you throw away my stuff? You're gonna be arrested.
Me. The tower was mine to do with as I saw fit. I paid for it and I have the receipt to prove it. I had every right to throw it out. Entitled mother.
You're going to pay for the delay, the cost of a new tower, or I'm taking you to court. I'll have you arrested for stealing and fraud and child.
Me. Go ahead and try. The tower belonged to me. I have the receipt. I also have insane voicemails, threats, and texts from you. You have nothing. You'll be arrested for filing a false police report, death threats, stalking, and probably more. Though you probably have a good shot at an insanity defense. I hung up and didn't pick up after that. She kept calling, but it didn't matter as I was getting a new number soon when I moved. After one Karen, I took down my ads and made arrangements with a local charity run by a nearby church to pick up anything they wanted for the poor. They weren't professional movers, so some of the heavier stuff had to be taken by a trash service. Her son emailed me again to apologize for his lunatic mother. I told him that he did nothing wrong and had nothing to apologize for. I said I was sorry he missed out on a free pull-up tower and wished him the best of luck in school. But please, tell me, am I the jerk? Wow, this lady's a little crazy, isn't she? The owner has stated multiple times that this is not an item that she's paid for. It's his own thing that he's giving away for free, and she's still demanding refunds and to speak to a manager and that she's gonna call the police? What? Lady, what planet are you living on? Part of me kind of hopes she did actually attempt to go through with some of this so that she actually got in some trouble for being so ridiculous. I don't know if it's a matter of the son didn't explain it properly to her or something, but the son seems perfectly polite and competent, so I don't think he was the issue here. His mom literally seems delusional. He had to apologize for her twice. Poster had a theory that maybe he's just a lot more like his dad. I'd be very curious to meet the man who could tolerate this woman on a daily basis. I mean, as the son, you don't really have a choice of your mother. But the husband, what were you doing, buddy? Karen neighbor hit my car, so I had her thrown in jail for something much worse. This happened shortly after college. My mom is a retired disabled woman who now owns her own house on a quiet residential cul-de-sac. She's lived there longer than anyone else. Her neighborhood has designated parking spaces at the end of the cul-de-sac, all with addresses of each house painted on the parking space. My mom doesn't get out much, so I use her designated parking space. At the time, we lived in the same city and I visited her weekly to bring groceries, fix broken things, cook for her, etc. My mom parked her car in the backyard of her house since she went out so little. Mom kept busy by gardening or baking and buying cookies for the children on the street. Mom's neighbor, Ivy, never parked well. Whenever I stopped by, her car was always parked so close to my car that I had to park on the curb. I wouldn't have cared about Ivy's very poor parking, but for two reasons. One, she had 4 or 5 kids and had parties almost every weekend, leaving trash in my mom's yards. 2, I loved my car, a 2016 metallic ice blue Dodge Challenger Hellcat, the first car I had ever purchased brand new. I washed that car once a week, detailed the interior, and had rules against eating, drinking, or even leaving trash in my car. It was my pride and joy. Mom had called the police throughout Ivy's residence because of the parties. Ivy's guests would fill up the cul-de-sac with their cars, obstructing traffic, and get into loud drunk fights at and after midnight. I often found empty beer bottles, empty condom wrappers, cigarette butts, and empty Kraken baggies on the fence between the properties, mostly on Ivy's side of the fence. This is all important information. One Saturday, while having dinner at Mom's house, I heard a loud crash and my car alarm went off. I ran outside to see Ivy's older model Honda Accord back out of her parking space and speed down the street. Ivy's Accord had a dent from the front bumper to the door and the headlight had popped out. I approached my Challenger with trepidation and screamed in anguish at what I saw. My car, my beautiful 3-week-old car with less than 500 miles on it, had a dent stretching from the passenger's door to the front bumper, and the right front wheel was tilted at a 30-degree angle. I was livid and in anguish as I called the police, filed an online claim with my insurance, and arranged for a tow truck to take my damaged car to the dealership. The estimated cost of repairs came out to $3,400 US. Total cost of repairs was eventually $6,500. I had a low insurance deductible of $100 US, but my car was parked, and Ivy owed for the damages. For 2 weeks, I knocked on Ivy's door or waited for her to come home. She stopped driving her damaged Accord and either rented or borrowed a Ford Fusion. When she was home, she didn't answer the door. When she wasn't, she stayed away until my rental car, a Dodge Charger, left Mom's parking space. I left a note on Ivy's door for her to call me, but only received harassing calls from restricted phone numbers or people blaring air horns in my ear when I answered. The revenge. About 2 weeks after the incident, Ivy's children came to Mom's house for some cookies. I noticed that 2 of them had bruises around their eyes. If Ivy hadn't hit my car, I still would have done what I did, but maybe not as underhandedly. I had Mom take pictures with and of the children, but waited until the next party to strike. Ivy had a party that night or the night after. Mom called me to let me know, and I installed an app onto my phone that gave me a fake phone number. I called 911 and reported the party. There's a loud party at this address, and I'm worried because the children are around all these drunk adults. Please hurry. Mom called to let me know the police had arrived. I drove to her house, stopping by the grocery store first, so that appeared to be the reason, and saw Ivy and her boyfriend Bane already sitting in the back of a squad car. From a news broadcast that night, I found out that Bane had warrants out for his arrest. Initially, the charges were disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace. However, Mom turned over the photos of the children, anonymously mailing them through the post office with Ivy's address and name as the return address, and less than a week later, Ivy and Bane were charged with child abuse charges. I think Bane was charged with more severe charges as well for abusing Ivy's daughter. Either way, the children ended up in foster care, and Ivy and Bane ended up in prison. And can we get a nice round of applause for the protagonist in this story? Not only did he get justice for what had been done to him personally, but he also got those children out of what sounded like a pretty toxic environment. We don't have a lot of details on what the abuse situation was here, but it was enough for the kids to get taken away. What we do have details on though is our hero's side of the story. What bothers me most is that he left information on the door so he could contact her about the issue and proceeded to get harassing phone calls. Typically in this situation, it would be the other way around. He should be the one harassing you to pay for the damages to his car. I can't imagine the kind of person that would do something like that. How are you going to turn around and try and harass the person that you screwed over? Do you not realize you're just making your situation so much worse? Karen's entitlement almost gets her kids very seriously hurt. Okay, so this happened last summer here in Australia, and I've recently found the police report again. I'm writing this on mobile, so I'm going to try and be as quick as I can, and I'm going to generalize a lot. Mid-January over here in Australia is the dead of summer. It can easily get to 40 degrees Celsius here. That's about 104 Fahrenheit. I was doing my shopping, well, was about to, when I passed a car parked in the parking lot that caught my eye. It was a standard-looking sedan, but what actually caught my eye was the two kids sitting in the back seat. One of them had a bloody nose that was gushing out. He looked like he'd been beaten half to death. I called 000, which is Australia's 911, and immediately asked for police. I told them very quickly what was going on and asked for permission to break the window while already taking my shirt off to protect my fist. They actually said no because that's damage of property. I'm not quite convinced they fully understood what was happening because of my panicked explanation of the situation. I said I'm doing it anyway because the longer I wait, the higher the likelihood that the kids are going to be even worse off. I think they finally clicked and clued into what was going on and said the ambulance had been radioed by the cops who were on their way. I told the kid to at least close their eyes and try to shield themselves in any way they could, and then bam, down goes the window. I had attracted a small crowd at this point from my yelling into the phone, but for the most part I was ignoring them. I opened the doors and a nice couple had helped me get the kids out and into the air conditioning of the shopping center. Long story short, yes, the cops arrived. Yes, the mother of the kids found her severely dehydrated children on the floor unconscious and started swearing up a storm, demanding to know who had done this to her precious babies. Yes, I told her, "You did, you dumb witch." Then put my shirt back on. Yes, she found out who smashed her window, and yes, she tried to have me charged and sued. The cop, a father of two girls I later found out, had torn her a brand new hole to shove those claims into. I was half-heartedly warned not to break windows again, but was unofficially thanked by the police. Stop leaving your children in hot vehicles. Okay, seriously. Story aside, Reddit aside, everything else aside, just you and me. How is this still a thing? How are people still doing this? This has been a thing that people have been made aware of for how many decades now? Surely, since this person was a child themselves, this has been a thing. You don't leave kids, pets, or anything living in your car. You're literally leaving them in an oven. Not even talking about the fact that the kid was already all bloody and bruised. But then to have the gall to pull up and ask, "Who did this to my babies?" Do you really think you can play this off? People like this should never be allowed to have kids in the first place, but at least they're not with her anymore. I ended up having to kick out my 20-year-old daughter. I, 45-year-old male, am a single father to my daughter, 20-year-old female. She's an only child and her mother isn't in the picture. Her mother hasn't been in the picture since Isabella was 2. I don't think Isabella even remembers her and we don't talk about her. I haven't dated since me and her mother split up 17 years ago. To still live with me and be financially supported by me at the age of 20, Isabella has to follow a number of rules. I know this sounds harsh, but most kids move out at 18. I know I certainly did, and young adults her age are usually at university by now. But Isabella is very resistant to move out. She has a job, but I've limited her to only working 3 days a week. If she wants to work more hours, she can move out and pay rent in her own place. I don't make her pay rent or pay for groceries, but she must help out around the house when she's not working. I used to hire a cleaner for when I was at work and Isabella was at school, and the cleaner would come twice a week. But since Isabella left school, I require her to replace the tasks of the cleaner. Instead of just sitting running around the house. She's not allowed to drink under my roof or be in my home drunk or hungover as her mother had alcohol problems, and she's not allowed boys over. If she disagrees with or disobeys any of these rules, she's very welcome to move out. Despite these rules I have for my daughter, we get on very well, up until recently. Isabella has been pushing against the rules, not completing chores, and I found some bottles of beer under her bed, which was the final straw. I asked her to please leave, and she shouted at me. I thought she might be drunk, and as that is a trigger for me, I left the room. The next day, I firmly reminded her again, no alcohol in the house. She told me all of her friends drink and that I was babying her, and I said I wasn't the reason and I just didn't want to, and she had to trust me. She told me that being closed off and secretive about my reasons for things was ruining our relationship, and she never wanted to talk to me again. I told her she couldn't give me the silent treatment in my own house, and I gave her 200 pounds and let her pack her bags and sent her on her way, not caring where she went because she's 20 and old enough to know better. It's been 5 days since Isabella left, and we haven't spoken even once. I miss her, and it is very reminiscent of when Isabella's mother left me in a drunken rage. And I'm starting to think I may be a jerk for kicking my daughter out like that. On the other hand, she's too old to still be living with me, and she knew the rules were firm. We've discussed the consequences many times. So, am I the jerk? Yes. Yes, you are. Sorry, you are the jerk in this situation. I get that you have rules in your house that you want her to follow, and to an extent that's absolutely fair. But a lot of the other stuff you're doing really isn't, and there may be a deeper issue here. My personal red flags went up when I read the line, "I've limited her to only working 3 days a week." I'm sorry, what? But he also says he has her taking up the work of their cleaner. I'm going to explain something here. Just because you moved out at 18 doesn't mean she's going to. Today's economy all over the world has reached a point where it is way more difficult for you to move out at a young age. It is very hard to save money and to be able to afford a place on your own. You limiting her to only being able to work 3 days a week has completely removed that as an option for her. She won't be able to apply for an apartment with a job that she's only working 3 days a week. She needs to have a full-time job with pay stubs to be able to apply for an apartment. At least that's how it works where I live. Either way, they need to see some source of reliable income to know that you can pay the rent. You're not allowing her to have that. Instead, it sounds like you wanted to have a free maid. I don't blame this girl one bit for lashing out. The alcohol and the drinking and stuff wouldn't have been my issue. This would have been my focus. She has been set up for failure. I just really hope she has someone else who can help her out for a little bit until she's able to get something solid going. But Dad, I'm sorry, you have a serious control issue. You are 100% ending our video today on a jerk. My boss says they don't pay overtime after I've already done overtime. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell for notifications. Sometimes as a consultant, you get to see how an office functions from an outsider's perspective. Since you're an independent contractor, the company treats you differently than an employee. Also, just due to the nature of contract work, your engagement is usually short-term. This makes you a temporary fixture, and sometimes you're just treated as a fly on the wall, like you don't exist. And this can lead to some interesting observations, including seeing train wrecks in progress. This is one of those tales. Not so much about the nuts and bolts of tech support, but more about the people and some good old-fashioned justice. Background. As a consultant, you're always going to be the IT guy, whether you like it or not. No matter how you market your services, every single company is going to assume you can do anything with a computer. And when business is slow, this is not necessarily a bad thing if you just need work. About 10 years ago, I found myself in a situation. I got an inquiry through my website asking about assistance deploying some workstations and other mundane tasks. Usually I would pass on this kind of work, but it was the winter and the other client work was dry that month. A guy still has to pay the bills, so I followed up and within a day the scope of work was signed. Easy stuff. The company had its own IT department, but just needed some extra hands. I was going to be one of 3 outside contractors that would deploy some workstations, do some server admin work, and set up some other equipment for a new department. The money wasn't the best, but it was time I had free and it was all swing shift work, meaning no traffic and I get to sleep in. So not bad. The first day, I report as requested about 3 p.m. and talk to our contact. He was a senior engineer in charge of part of the IT department there, saying he really doesn't have time to do anything more than a quick introduction as they're slammed with work, he shows us the ropes and leaves us to it. Between the three of us, we break down our specialities and parse out the work. Everyone knows this is a cakewalk of a job and just wants to get it done fast as the pay was a flat rate. I take the server work and see my contact who's the system administrator. Figuring he was probably gone for the day as it was mid-evening, I was just going to leave him a note asking him to call me. But to my surprise, he's at his desk. In fact, just about everyone in the IT department are milling around. Didn't think much of it at the time, just that it was one busy department and the guys must be pulling double shifts. He shows me the systems and I get to work. Around midnight, we're wrapping up for the night and the three of us break down what we have left with the senior engineer who's still on site. The plan is to wait until Friday night to deploy the workstations and get everything in place. The senior engineer says most of his team will probably be there all weekend anyhow, so it doesn't matter to him. I left thinking, man, that's a busy place. Those guys must really be pulling down the overtime. I wonder what's going on that they have so much work, as I walked out the door that night. Soon enough, I'd find out what the deal was. Friday night. I head to the worksite a little early on Friday, figuring if we all pull a long night, we should be able to wrap it up and all get our weekend back. Things are going great and we're ahead of schedule, so the senior engineer offers to take us out to a local diner while we wait for the office to close up so we can deploy workstations without tripping over people. At the diner, senior engineer.
I want to thank you guys for all your hard work. We're all overworked, and when we got approval to contract out this job, everyone was excited.
Me. Hey, glad to be of service. Looks like you guys are crazy busy. Is everyone pulling doubles and doing weekends to handle your ticket load? Senior engineer.
Oh, we're understaffed, so we all have to pull extra hours.
Me. That sucks, but must be some great overtime. Senior engineer.
Overtime? Not really. We're all salaried. Some loophole or something. We just put in the time because we all need the job right now.
The conversation trailed off from there, but it left me thinking, in this state, most IT workers are eligible for overtime as a matter of law. There's no loophole like that. Something isn't right. Back at the worksite, I'm in the network closet with the systems administrator, hooking up some ports and finishing the server work. He's a friendly guy, so we start chatting. Me. I was talking to your buddy and it seems like you guys work insane hours here. I ask, trying to fish for a little more information. Systems admin. Oh yeah, it's been like this for a year. 60 hours is a light week these days. It's kind of bull. Me. Yeah, the other guy said you don't get overtime. Systems admin. That is what the boss tells us, but let me show you something. He pulls up an email exchange he had with his manager. It's dated about 10 months ago and makes the very point I thought that the entire department should be getting overtime and the law requires it. His boss's response in bold and caps was,
"It is company policy to not pay any overtime. Working more than 40 hours is part of the job. Deal with it or find another place to work."
Then the systems admin smirks and shows me his response to the boss. Sure, okay, whatever. And that was the end of the exchange. Me. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but you might want to call up the labor department. I'm pretty sure it's illegal for you to not be getting overtime. Then, to my surprise, the systems admin pulls up another email from his personal account. Oh, it's blatantly illegal. I asked a lawyer and this was his response. He showed me a memo explaining the law and that most likely a lawsuit would be successful. This was dated about 9 months ago. Me. So you guys know you should be getting overtime but not getting paid and everyone's okay with that? Systems admin. We all make sure to log all of our hours and document the time. Me, still confused, but you still aren't actually getting paid for overtime. Systems admin. No, but we will. Here's the kicker. According to the law, the labor department will look back at the hours we put in for the last 12 months and award us retroactive overtime. So all of us just log our time and keep records, then in about a month, we're going to file a claim altogether. The company is going to be on the hook for all that overtime and they won't be allowed to fire any of us for reporting them either. Then the coup de grace. We all figured when this whole thing started, if we pressed the point back, then they would just figure out a way to screw us. So we all just decided to stay quiet, put in the time they tell us to work, and we will get our bonus check when it's all said and done if this stuff is all backdated.
Wow, that is some stone cold strategizing.
Me. How many hours do you think you guys have piled up? Systems admin. Hard to tell. Everyone keeps their own paper logs to keep it quiet. We also don't talk about it too much so nothing gets out, but last time we met outside of work, it was a boatload of time. I figure for myself, they still owe me about 13 to 14 months of salary and overtime. And when all's said and done, add up damages, penalties, interest, it will probably be almost 2 years of pay. Me. Holy. Systems admin.
So if the guys won't talk about it and seem eager to work all these long hours, now you know why.
We finished up the job that night. I exchanged contact information with a few guys and said if they had any other contract work to think about giving me a call. And that was it. Until 3 months later, I'm at another job and see an email come in from the systems administrator. Subject line, overtime claim.
Hey IT guy, hope you're doing well. We all ended up filing a big overtime claim with the state and the company fired us for supposedly falsifying our timesheets. The lawyer's sorting it all out, but anyway, I wanted to know if I could give your name to an investigator who's looking for witnesses to verify some of the extra hours we worked.
I agreed to talk to the investigator and got a call about a week later. He asked me some routine questions about times and dates and wanted me to email him over some proof I did the job. Then he started going into the details of the case.
So we got this company for probably $1 million in overtime and damages between all the guys in the department, plus firing is probably illegal, so that's going to be another few $100,000 on top of it. The insurance company wants to settle, and once we wrap up the due diligence work, I think these guys are all going to make out rather nicely.
I didn't hear anything for a while until another email came in from the systems administrator. Subject line, RE overtime claim.
Just wanted to let you know we settled this whole thing. Company caved pretty quick once it was clear we kept honest logs of our time and the local management violated parent company regulations for the sake of making their site budget look better. Can't go into details, but we all got sizable checks, enough to pay off some loans and go back to school. I'll have to find a new job, but after I get my grad degree, that shouldn't be an issue. Appreciate you talking to the investigators. Thanks, IT guy.
What a bunch of jerks, right? Wow, I can only imagine how satisfying it was for the original poster to be, as he put it, a fly on the wall in this situation. We all love to hear the story of a company getting what's coming to them for not taking care of their workers properly. At the end of the day, companies don't seem to recognize that their workers are the life's blood of their company and they would have nothing without them. They need to treat them with that kind of respect. Blatantly breaking the law and not paying these guys for the incredible amount of time they're putting in is just downright dirty. And you know that the higher-ups were getting nice bonuses for making it look like their site was being very budget-friendly. So essentially, they were taking money out of the workers' pockets and just putting it directly into their own. All I can say is I'm glad they got what's coming to them, and I'm sure they will not be getting any other kind of management positions anytime soon. My longtime friend stole my medication and then denied it, so I kind of ruined his life. 16 years ago, I made a friend one day on the bus. Up until about a year ago, I considered this guy a member of my family. Let's call this guy Joel. So I keep a crystal bowl on the mantle above my fireplace full of my medical marijuana. I started noticing that after poker night, my bowl seemed a lot emptier than it should. So I set up a camera to see which one of my guests was helping themselves when my back was turned. Next poker night, once everyone's gone, I pull up the video. There was Joel, plain as day, stuffing like $60 worth of my medication into his pocket. I sent him the video and told him he had to return my medication or pay for it, and I told him that if he chose to do neither, he should no longer consider me a friend. He denied it. Even with the video staring him in the face, he said he hadn't taken anything. He even had the nerve to act offended by the fact that I accused him. So I decided to ruin his life. Over the years, he had told me a lot of things he didn't want his wife to know. Affairs, shady things he'd done with their joint funds, drug issues, terrible things he said about her, her mother, and her sister. So I went back through all of our messages and took screenshots of everything secret he'd ever said to me. There were over 70 pics. I sent her the screenshots. Here are some examples of the kind of stuff that was in the screenshots. He admitted to cheating on her with 8 different women over the course of our friendship, taking money that they were saving for a car and using it to buy drugs, specifically Xanax and Perks. The fact that he was continuing to do drugs after he promised her he was clean and sober. Some of the things he said about her and her family. She's a vile, disgusting woman, and the reason they never had sex is he can't stand the smell in between her folds. He said he was pretty sure she was inappropriately touching her niece. He said that all of her friends only pretend to like her so they can buy oxys off her. Also, as I'm editing this, I just remembered that he said he wanted to get one of his side chicks pregnant because he'd always resented his wife for being infertile. Her sister is an insane harpy, and she abuses her kids. This is not true, but he said it. Her sister is faking autoimmune disease for attention. Her mom is a fat, lazy cow who doesn't actually need to be in a wheelchair. She just likes not having to stand up or bathe herself, so she's malingering. And there were more things, but that's what came to mind without me having to dig through the screenshots I sent. She filed for divorce and reported him to the police for the drugs he had in their house. While he was doing his 8 months in jail for the pot that he stole from me, his boss filled his position depression and he lost his job. His now ex-wife won't let him in her house. Now he lives in a car and showers at truck stops. I found out about the aftermath in parts. Some came from his ex-wife. She told me about the divorce, kicking him out and getting him arrested. Some came from a guy Joel and I used to both be friends with, who works at the place Joel used to work. He told me about the job loss, car living, and the truck stop thing. I'm still on good terms with his ex-wife. I even sent her some enchiladas the other day for Cinco de Mayo. I also sent the video to all of our mutual friends, so he lost 90% of his social circle. I cut that other 10% out of my own life since they want to associate with known thieves. Birds of a feather. So, am I the jerk? No, original poster, you're definitely not the jerk. You outed the definition of a jerk, and there's nothing wrong with that. This guy really does sound quite despicable. If we're looking at the single action of the fact that he stole from you and all of this came as a repercussion, sure, it doesn't necessarily seem balanced for that one action. But it seems clear that it was just a matter of time before karma caught up to this guy. And our poster just gave it a little bit of a nudge. It honestly sounds like you just did yourself and everyone a favor by getting this guy out of everyone's lives. My aunt demands my grandma's cookbook that I've had for 10 years, 4 days after grandma passes away. So my grandma gave me this cookbook that's been passed down 4 generations in the family, making me the 5th to have it. She gave it to me when I got a house and started university, 10 years ago. My aunt was in the room when it was given too. My one cousin was jealous because she thought she deserved it as I didn't spend as much time with grandma living far away. If Hitler, Stalin, and Martha Stewart had a threesome, my auntie is the product. She's the most emotionally abusive person I've ever met and hates my mom for finding real love and remarrying after she got divorced. She expected my mom never even to date again like her. Well, in December, my grandma passed away on my birthday. She was my idol and role model, and she loved me and I loved her so dearly. I was the last person she remembered before her Alzheimer's took over completely. Well, not even 3 days later, I find out my auntie is looking for this book and demands it so she can make copies for the entire family. My oldest cousin thinks it's her birthright, and my other girl cousin just had a baby, so she thinks she deserves it so she can pass it down to her little girl because I can't have kids. I'm having a hysterectomy next month. I've told them all to screw off. Grandma gave this to me 10 years ago before she got sick, before I got sick. Not that it matters. She gave it to me, and I don't have to give it over to anyone for any reason. Not even roommates were allowed to touch this book. None of them are speaking to me now, and I'm really mad. I'm so disappointed over their entitled feelings and throwing it at me that I can't have kids. I turned 27 the day my grandma died. I want kids, I just can't medically have them. No one is getting this book. She gave it to me and she was the only person to ever accept me as family. I miss my grandma, and I wish I understood the meaning of family. What's written sounds bizarre to me and I want those good feelings. Just to clarify, I'm hurt because they won't speak to me. They're speaking to everyone else instead of me. I haven't heard once from this auntie, but she said everything to my mom and hurt my mom so much more. And my mom had to relay it to me, thinking I had stole the cookbook because my mom and I weren't talking when my grandma gave me the book 10 years ago. So I either never told her or it was so minor back then she forgot I had it. I don't have any respect for people who talk to others about a problem, but not to the person who's the only one that can rectify the problem. She shouldn't have involved my mom. Edit. The book is extremely delicate, so it can't be copied unless painstakingly by hand. This book came from her great-grandmother, my great-great-great-great-grandmother, from England on the boat with her to Canada. I've been working on making a copy of it digitally already for years, but it's massive. It has sections in it about meat cuts, canning, and even table settings with which way the knife blade should point. It also has every generation's writing in it as they scored recipes. I remember crying the first time I got to mark my first recipe as excellent. My auntie was in the room when my grandma gave it to me for the first time. It's been 10 years and I've spoken less than a few sentences to her because of the things she did to me when I lived with her for a short while. I'm not spending any time giving anything to her. She also didn't even ask me herself, but did it in a way that it demanded my mom make me give it back. After explaining to my mom, she agreed with me. Update on the decision: venting and all the opinions that were well expressed has given me really good ideas on how to safely copy/digitize the book and to preserve it when I can afford to. So when I find a store to do it, I'm going to have copies made for each of my cousins only for next year on the date. A birthday present from me to everyone in memory of the best person I had the honor of knowing. If Auntie wants a copy, she can borrow one of her kids' versions to go copy. I'm not going out of my way for her. but I do really respect this gift and won't covet it and it be lost to the family. I'm going to leave out a few pages of the book that have the recipes that are my favorite and I'm known for specifically, because they're so amazing and I want just one thing to be mine and Grandma's. I think that's a more than reasonable compromise for all the work I'll be taking on to afford the process. Nothing crazy, like 5 pages only. The book is hundreds of pages long. I think we've come to a reasonable compromise, but was I being a jerk? I feel this one's a little more difficult to judge just on the face of it. There's clearly a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that led to her feeling the way she does about her aunt. And I have to admit, it doesn't sound like a person I would be too eager to try and please either. But I think she came to the right decision in wanting to share this with members of her family and making sure it's not lost due to one generation's fight. It's been in the family a very long time and clearly everyone feels it's very important. I don't think the original poster was being a jerk. Honestly, this was a horrible time for them to come at her with something like this, and I think it just took a little bit of time for people to figure out how the situation should be handled. Am I the jerk for robbing my brother of his full inheritance? My brother Ben, 35, is spoiled. Mom favors him over us girls. He always got what he wanted or he threw tantrums, even at my sister's funeral. She was 16, him 14, and me 11. My dad has 2 brothers and 1 sister. When my uncle was 22, he came out as gay. My grandparents were shocked, but they loved and accepted him for who he was. My dad married my mom and with my uncle did lots of things together. To us, he was the fun uncle. My aunt and other uncle married their partners, but they were always critical of my other uncle because of his life choices. My grandparents held the family together, but in 2016, they both died within 9 months of each other. My aunt and uncle ended up disowning my gay uncle. He was upset, but he and my dad have always been close, so we became his only family. In 2019, my uncle was diagnosed with lung cancer. He rewrote his will and asked my brother to be executor because dad wasn't coping with him being sick. Ben accepted as he believed that my uncle would split everything between him and myself. My uncle died in May 2021. My dad, my uncle's boyfriend, and I were with him. I called and messaged my brother repeatedly, but he didn't answer or come to say goodbye. At the funeral, dad was a mess, but my brother was giddy. A couple of weeks of my brother pestering my dad to find the will later, we looked in my uncle's safe. Dad unlocked it and Ben grabbed the paperwork. Soon after, he swiped everything off my uncle's desk, swore, yelled, and stormed out. Later, I found the will, and my uncle had split his estate 4 ways. 1/4 each to my brother, myself, my uncle's boyfriend, and cancer research. Ben was angry because he only got 1/4. He contested the will. He claimed that he only accepted the job of executor because he was promised 1/2. He believed he should get 1/2 and the other 1/2 should be split 3 ways. It went to court in October 2022. I testified, and when asked if my brother should get 1/2 of the estate because of all the work he had to do, I said no. I said my dad and I had done more than my brother helping my uncle simplify his affairs prior to his death, and that my uncle was a deliberate man, and we should respect his wishes. Ben was livid, but still thought he would win. He didn't. Early December, I was notified that Ben got 1/4 minus costs, and the rest of us each got 1/4. He went nuts, demanding I compensate him because I cost him his money. My mother blew up my phone with, "How can I do this to her baby?" And relatives are telling me I did the wrong thing. Mom banned me from Christmas, my parents divorced when I was 16, because of my poor behavior, and told everyone I refused to come after what I did. Ben had a New Year's Eve party and my sister-in-law sent me a message saying sorry with a picture of my photo on Ben's dartboard and a sign telling his guests to throw darts at me, and to message my number and tell me I'm a jerk. I only got 2 messages from his friends, so I don't think I am. But you tell me, am I the jerk? Personally, to me, absolutely not. Your brother was the one trying to be a greedy little jerk. And from what I can gather from the context of this, there was no official agreement for him to receive 50%. He just made that assumption. And the fact that he thinks he should be guaranteed that amount for helping out so much is kind of absurd. I don't know. Honestly, I think this kid just kind of needed a bit of a reality check, and it sounds like you gave it to him. Your uncle sounds like he was a good guy, and it seems like this is probably the outcome he would have wanted. As you said, he was a deliberate person, and that is what he chose to put in his will for it to be executed that way. For For the brother to turn around and say, no, we had an agreement when there was a new will clearly written out when the uncle found out about all of this, really just feels like he's just trying to squeeze more money out of it into his own pocket. I think the original poster did the right thing, and I don't think the family's being fair to them at all as a result. This brother needs to just learn to grow up.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.